Chapter 1354. Oh no! Why is he so stubborn? Didn't he receive my message? That's impossible. How could he be so stupid? Is he ready to die? Pan Xing laughed loudly. In fact, Pan Shi had been paying attention to Yi Qinghan's situation ever since she came out. As a divine emperor supremacy, she was in charge of the reincarnation of Pan Jie. Although her strength wasn't as domineering as Pan Xing's, her supernatural power was superior. As long as she wanted to know something about the planar battlefield, she could easily know it. It seemed that Yi Qinghan wasn't going to listen to her and was ready to fight. Although she didn't think that Yi Qinghan's life or death had anything to do with her, seeing Yi Qinghan being so impulsive still made her angry. If she hadn't warned Yi Qinghan before, she wouldn't have been so angry. But now, she felt that everything she had done and worried for so long had been in vain. She was worried about Yi Qinghan's life and death, but Yi Qinghan didn't care about himself. How could she not be angry? She wanted to turn around and go back to her cabin, but her feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. She couldn't move at all. In the end, she stood there resentfully. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and her expression was complicated. No one knew what she was thinking about. Quick, quick, quick! On the left side of the Golden Dragon Plain, in a swamp that stretched as far as the eye could see, a majestic cultivator with a flat snake head shouted loudly. The snake-headed beast man was extremely annoyed. These junior commanders were all trash. Their speed was extremely slow, and their divine senses were extremely weak. If they weren't careful, they would be trapped and transported away. However, he couldn't ignore these junior commanders. Some of these people could very likely break through to the 9th rank commander level. If they all died, no one in the Beastmen plane would be able to break through to level 9 for a long time. Moreover, so many commanders had died in this planar war, there were too many restrictions in the swamp. Half of his level 9 subordinates were sent to Foxy to stall Yi Qinghan. As for the remaining half, they could only find a safe path and let these little commanders pass slowly. Finally, amidst the furious roars of the snake-headed orc, only a few dozen of the thousands of small commanders were accidentally teleported away. The rest were all safe. However, several days had already passed. The snake-headed orc let out a sigh of relief, and a red light flashed in its blood-red triangular eyes. It waved its hand and ordered, "Everyone, advance at full speed. Commander, send a group to scout ahead and mark the places with restrictions. Hurry to the divine world as fast as you can." More than 20 rank 9 commanders immediately flew forward. Their divine senses were activated, and they began to investigate. The Half-Blood Beastman army quickly moved forward. Everyone held their breath, afraid of angering the snake-headed Half-Blood Beastmen. Report! After walking for half a day, a half-beast commander quickly flew back and reported, "Your Majesty, Chi-E and the rest have returned." "Chi-E? Bastard! Ask him to come here." The snake-headed orc's heart sank when he heard it was the Qilin half-beast. Chi-E and Foxy went to stall the people from the divine world together. And now, they suddenly brought someone back? The snake-headed orc thought that this was definitely not good news. As expected, the Qilin brought back extremely bad news. Another rank 9 orc supreme had fallen, and more than 10 rank 9 commanders had died. Foxy insisted on staying behind to stall the divine world. Now, her life and death were uncertain. Bang! The snake-headed orc's powerful fist, shining with black light, smashed directly at the Qilin's head, forcefully smashing him into the ground. The tyrannical aura enveloped all the half-beastmen. Countless low-level small commanders were so frightened that they shivered and crawled on the ground. The snake-headed orc seemed to have not vented his anger. He lifted his leg and stomped heavily, smashing the Qilin's head completely into the ground. He let out a few long breaths before cursing, "Crawl out if you're not dead yet." As expected, the Qilin stretched out 2 hands covered in scales and crawled out with difficulty. The snake-headed orc still had a sense of propriety and did not kill him. This Qilin was also very cooperative, allowing him to be smashed half to death in front of all the powerhouses of the Beastmen dimension. He did not resist or complain at all. To be able to make a rank 9 supreme martial artist willingly be beaten half to death, and even in front of such a subordinate, the snake-headed orc's strength and ferocity were evident. All lower rank 9 commanders lead the small commanders and slowly rush to the divine world. If you encounter any powerhouses from the other dimensions, do not attack. Survival is the most important. Upper rank 9 commanders and senior commanders all follow me at full speed. I will not leave a single corpse in the divine world with an intact body. The snake-headed orc's tyrannical roar resounded in the wilderness. That roar was like that of a king among ferocious beasts, causing all the half-beastmen to feel a chill. After that, all the 9th grade upper and 9th grade supreme beings, which added up to nearly 30 people, emitted a brutal aura at the same time. Following the snake-headed half-beast man, they turned into streaks of afterimages and shot toward the plane of the immortal realm. The upper rank 9 and rank 9 supreme martial artists rushed at full speed. Without the burden of the small commanders, their divine senses were extremely strong, and they did not have to worry about the restrictions in the plain battlefield. In just a day and a half, they arrived near the Golden Dragon Plain. From afar, the Golden Dragon deity sensed nearly 30 powerful auras rushing toward them. She thought that they were here to attack their plane. Her body trembled in fear, and she immediately fled toward the back of the stronghold. The lower golden dragons were even worse off. All of them prostrated on the ground, shivering. They did not even dare to run away. They closed their eyes and prepared to die. Of course, the snake-headed orc didn't care about these small fries. He did not even look at them. He only swept his divine sense to one side, and then led his people past and flew away. The divine world plane? They are going to attack the despicable divine world plane. A few golden dragon powerhouses detected the situation and were instantly delighted. They had no hope of avenging the female golden dragon deity. They could not ask for more powerhouses to go and find trouble with the divine world plane. Of course, after secretly rejoicing, they immediately led their people and quietly retreated. They did not want to be implicated in a fight between immortals. Huff! Yi Qinghan looked into the distance and let out a long sigh. It seemed like he was very unlucky this time. The reinforcements from the Beastmen plane only took slightly more than 2 days to arrive. He had lost the gamble. Let them go. Your people are here. Yi Qinghan stood up and held the slaughter god saber. His whole body felt relaxed, and he had an aura of someone who had no fear of death. There was no other way. He was very clear that even if he could win this battle against the Beastmen plane, he would probably die in Pan Xing's hands. Moreover, although he felt that his strength had doubled, he was not confident that he could fight against so many people alone. He did not believe that such a powerful Beastmen plane did not have a supreme spiritual treasure. Zhu, Yi, and the rest should have escaped far away, right? In a few more days, it will be 1 month. At this moment, all the powerful armies in the plain battlefield should have gone to the Scarlet Gobi Desert. They should be very safe. This fox demon's position in the Beastmen plane should not be low. Old Ancestor should be safe. In that case, let's fight with all our strength. As long as we kill all the powerhouses from the Beastmen plane, even if Pan Xing wants to take my life, Xiao He should not have a problem. Before Xiao He evolved, he was already half-corporeal. After this evolution, he should be able to transform. All right, for Xiao He, I must win. Kill, kill, kill. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and caressed the slaughter god saber. A faint smile appeared on his face as he softly muttered. When he reached the last 3 words, his voice suddenly became louder, and each word was louder than the previous one. Furthermore, every time he shouted the word kill, his aura would increase. Kill. When he shouted the last word, his aura had already reached its peak. He slowly raised his head, and his gaze was as sharp as a blade. Fox G's body trembled, and she took 3 steps back. He seemed to have transformed into a lone wolf, howling with all his might as he prepared for his final counterattack before he died. Chapter 1355. Pick him up. He's been hit by my enchanting spell and is now in a daze. He'll recover in 3 days. Don't worry. Since I've sworn the divine Emperor Blood Oath, I won't hurt him. Fox Lady looked at the 20 or so powerful auras in the distance. She was overjoyed. She retreated tens of thousands of meters and threw Beast God at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan caught Beast God with both hands and used his divine sense to check. He was relieved to find that there was only a trace of energy swimming in Beast God's soul ocean and no harm had been done to it. He also believed that Fox Lady would not sacrifice her life for an upper ninth grade martial artist. Breaking the divine Emperor Blood oath in the dimensional battlefield was like playing with her life. In the white fog in the distance, nearly 30 figures were faintly discernible. The black airflow around Fox Lady was also flowing slowly. Yi Qinghan did not retreat even half a step. She carried the Beast God on her back, and her origin energy quickly emerged from her back, forming an origin armor that protected the Beast God. Then he held his saber with one hand and looked calmly at the approaching figures. 10,000 meters, 9,000 meters, 8,000 meters. 5 ninth grade supreme martial artists, 23 upper ninth grade martial artists. Huh, good timing. Yi Qinghan silently calculated the distance between them. When they were 6,000 meters apart, Yi Qinghan moved. His eyes lit up and a strange light shone. The Soul Dreamland was the first to be activated. All the upper ninth grade martial artists were enveloped in it. How terrifying was the soul skill of a great perfection soul master. The 27 people who were rushing over suddenly stopped. Even the 4 ninth grade supreme martial artists stopped. Obviously, they were all hit by Yi Qinghan's soul skill and fell into the soul dreamland. Humph! A cold snort sounded, followed by 2 rays of red light. Instantly, the nearby sky was enveloped by the red light. The strange light in Yi Qinghan's eyes immediately disappeared, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. He's also a soul master? No wonder he led these upper ninth grade martial artists to come here. Originally, Yi Qinghan was puzzled. The Qilin half-beastman should have told the powerhouses of the half-beastman plane about his powerful soul skill. Why would he bring a group of rank 9s to die? It seemed that this snake-headed beast-man was extremely conceited in his mastery of the soul. After throwing the Slaughter God's saber into the War Emperor Palace, Yi Qinghan closed his eyes. His pair of slender hands started to dance around as his aura became stronger and stronger. The Fire God battle armor lit up with a red light, and the Fire God's heart on his forehead started to flash. His black hair fluttered without any wind, and a faint white fog surrounded his body. From afar, it looked like an ancient god had descended and was unparalleled. Emperor Hanyi? Humph. You're the one who killed 4 of my commanders, right? Your soul is indeed powerful, but with me here, your soul skills are trash. What other tricks do you have? Use them. This seat will let you die wholeheartedly convinced today. The snake-headed beast-man led a group of powerful half-beastmen and stood beside Foxy. As he looked at the imposing Yi Qinghan, he was not in a hurry to attack. He stood there proudly and locked his blood-red, triangular eyes on Yi Qinghan as he sneered. Oh! Yi Qinghan, who was originally prepared to secretly circulate his cold energy and fight to the death to kill as many as he could, suddenly opened his eyes and laughed. He suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. He looked at the snake-headed beast-man and laughed. You're the commander of the beast-man plane, right? You want me to die wholeheartedly convinced? Why don't we fight one-on-one? If you can kill me alone, I will die wholeheartedly convinced. Do you have the guts? Foxy had always been afraid of Yi Qinghan. She quickly said in a low voice, Your Majesty, you can't. The snake-headed beast-man hesitated. Yi Qinghan's soul skill that scared the Qilin beast-man so much that he couldn't fight had been easily broken by him. He just wanted to use his words to boost morale. When he saw Yi Qinghan's attitude and his most trusted Foxy's reminder, he couldn't help but feel vexed. He couldn't help but feel vexed. If he had known earlier, he would have used Yi Qinghan's soul skill to surround and kill him. Ha! Yi Qinghan looked up to the sky and laughed. His face was full of mockery. Although he wasn't as tall as the beast man, he gave off a feeling that he was looking down on the world. He said coldly, Your Majesty has guts. If you don't dare to fight one-on-one, then don't talk big. I'm here alone, and you have dozens of peak experts, but no one dares to fight one-on-one with me? The ancestors once said that the half-beastman plane is filled with a bunch of cowardly bastards that are neither human nor beast. It seems like it's true. You fine, I'll fight with you. Everyone else just watch. Foxy cursed inwardly. As expected, the snake-headed beast-man roared angrily and shot forward. He actually fell for Yi Qinghan's provocation. The rest of the half-beastman experts heard about Yi Qinghan's tyrannical strength. They also knew that Leopard 1 and the other 3 had died at his hands. At this moment, they felt a sense of relief. Idiot, if His Majesty dies, will you all still be alive? Foxy cursed inwardly and made preparations. If the snake-headed beast-man couldn't win, she would immediately charge forward and dismember Yi Qinghan. The snake-headed beast-man was the strongest expert in the half-beastman plane. He was one of the strongest experts in the hundreds of planes. He was about to start an earth-shattering battle with the peak expert of the divine world, the #1 genius in history, Yi Qinghan. On the peak of Mount Pan, a purple-robed woman was fighting another battle in her heart. Idiot, this idiot really wants to die. He actually wants to fight. What should I do? What should I do? Should I help him? Am I really going to watch him die in front of me? He's a genius that only appears once in several epochs. Pan Huang said that the next manager of Pan Realm, the Divine Emperor Supreme, will be born soon. It seems like it's very likely to be him. What if he dies? Won't the next Divine Emperor Supreme appear? That's not right. Pan Huang has the ability to see through the heavens and earth. Since he said that the next Divine Emperor Supreme will be born, it means that this person won't die, right? Then why am I worried? That's not right either. Given this person's situation, even if he doesn't die at the hands of the half-beastman plains experts, he will die at Pan Xing's hands. Pan Huang won't care about anything in Pan Realm. Then, if Pan Xing wants to kill him, who can stop him? Could it be that Pan Huang predicted that I would save him? That's right. Pan Huang said that I would have a heart tribulation. Could it be this person? Recently, because of this person, my Dao heart has been unstable. It turns out that Pan Huang predicted everything. All right, since that's the case, I'll help him cover up this time and avoid Pan Xing's detection. As for the experts of this half-beastman plane, I don't care. If you die at the hands of the half-beastman, it means that you won't be the next Divine Emperor Supreme. She kept muttering to herself. What was extremely strange was that Pan Xing didn't seem to notice. It was clear that Pan Shi's abilities were much stronger than Pan Xing's. In just an instant, Pan Shi's mind went through a series of internal struggles before she finally made a decision. One of her ivory-like, lily-white hands quietly began to form a series of strange hand seals. The moment she formed the hand seals, her entire body instantly relaxed. A sweet smile that could enchant the hearts of all men in the world appeared on her face. It was so beautiful that it was heartbreaking. Chapter 1356. Huh? Why is the battle over here so intense? How could it tear such a powerful spatial crack? Could it be that the one who broke through the barrier of Pangaea is one of them? Pan Xing had been paying attention to Yi Qinghan's side. At this moment, he suddenly raised his eyebrows and swept his gaze over to the Scarlet Gobi Desert. He saw the 2 ninth-grade supreme martial artists fighting. Suddenly, their strength increased greatly, and the intensity of their attacks became unbelievably fierce. In the Scarlet Gobi Desert below, a 1,000-meter-tall beast-man was fighting fiercely with a huge demonic beast. Both the man and the beast's eyes were bloodshot. Obviously, they were completely bewitched. They wouldn't wake up until they killed everyone in the Scarlet Gobi Desert or died. That beast man looked ferocious and terrifying. The brown hair all over his body stood up, and his body shone with a golden light. He was an expert who cultivated the metal element. With every step he took, the ground below shook. A pair of huge fists whistled in the wind. Every time he punched, cracks appeared in the space. That demonic beast was also hundreds of meters tall. It stood upright on both legs, and its aura reached the sky. It was comparable to the legendary ancient ferocious beasts. Its whole body was covered in yellow scales. It looked like a pangolin, but its head was round. It had wings, horns, and a 1,000-meter-long tail. It mainly relied on that tail to attack. Its tail was covered in blue light. Obviously, it was a powerful demonic beast that cultivated the water element. The man and the beast fought. Their speed was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged hundreds of moves in midair. As the man and the beast attacked, cracks that were tens of thousands of meters long appeared in the sky. They kept tearing and healing. It was as if the void was torn by the man and the beast, leaving many scars in the sky. It was extremely terrifying. The man and the beast's eyes were bloodshot. They stared at each other. The aura they emitted made the low-level humans and beasts at the side crawl on the ground in fear. Occasionally, some unlucky warriors and demonic beasts were hit by their attacks and turned into minced meat. Kill, kill, kill. In the distance, an upper rank, 9-Manus man's eyes were similarly blood-red. It was obvious that he had killed too many, and the bloodthirsty aura in the blood-colored Gobi Desert had been possessed. At this moment, the ferocious aura of the man and the beast had triggered the evil in its mind. It roared and charged toward the man and the beast. However, before he could even get close, he was swept by the terrifying magical beast's tail and instantly turned into a bloody mess. Not even a divinity crystal was left behind. The beast men and magical beasts in the surroundings looked at the commanders of the two races in confusion. How did they suddenly become so powerful? However, the two groups immediately became excited, and they began to search for experts from other planes nearby to fight fiercely. The strength of this man and beast is strange. Logically speaking, they shouldn't possess essence energy. It was impossible for them to have such a terrifying attack unless they had obtained elemental energy. However, the two of them possess essence energy, so it's very possible for them to break through the barrier of Plate Realm. Pan Xing's sword-like eyebrows were tightly knitted. He stared at the battle between the two and sank into deep thought. As for the battle between Yi Qinghan and the snake-headed beast-man, he had long forgotten about it. This man and beast are already possessed. Even if I don't do anything, they will still kill each other. I'm not breaking the rules. Pan Shi's watery eyes swept over the bloody Gobi Desert. She sighed deeply and then looked at the stronghold in the divine realm. She shook her head slightly and said, "Young man, I can only help you this much. As for the battle between you and the beast men, it's none of my business whether you live or die in the end. Whether you can become the next divine emperor or not, it's all up to your fate." After saying that, Pan Shi didn't care anymore. She smiled sweetly and flashed into the wooden hut. The door of the wooden hut was quietly closed again. Boom! Ha! How can you be a match for me with your meager strength? Now you're convinced, aren't you? This supreme spiritual treasure is indeed powerful. It's not dead even after taking so many attacks from me. Let's see how long you can resist. Die! While the battle in the bloody Gobi Desert was extremely fierce, the battle in the stronghold in the divine realm was extremely tragic. As the snake-headed beastman's figure flashed again and again, a pair of strong hands covered in black scales smashed down. Yi Qinghan's figure was sent flying again and again, smashing heavily on the ground and creating deep pits in the mountain peaks of the stronghold in the divine realm. Yi Qinghan's situation was not good. The first attack of his soul-destroying attack made the snake-headed beastman's body tremble, but it was instantly dispersed by the snake-headed beastman's powerful soul attack. Yi Qinghan was in a passive situation. The first soul-destroying attack didn't succeed. Although he used soul-destroying attacks again and again, the snake-headed beastman had long been prepared for it. There was no lethality at all. Yi Qinghan used the power of cold and waved his small palms, but they were easily defeated by the destructive power of the snake-headed beastman. Boom! The snake-headed beastman punched again with a fist the size of a casserole. The black airflow in his hand was drawn and flew out, forming a black fist shadow composed entirely of the power of destruction. As soon as the black fist shadow appeared, cracks appeared in the space, and layers of vibrations spread far away. The black fist shadow flashed and shot at Yi Qinghan's chest. At this moment, Yi Qinghan just happened to fly out of the deep pit in the mountain peak with great difficulty. Seeing the black fist shadow flying at him again, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He activated the power of cold and wanted to escape quickly. However, the black fist shadow was too fast, and he was once again smashed into the mountain peak. Suddenly, the mountain peak trembled, and the earth cracked. Mud and stones flew everywhere. A loud sound broke through the sky and did not stop for a long time. Is that all you've got? You still want to fight me one-on-one? Apart from your soul attack, you're just a piece of trash. If it weren't for this supreme spiritual treasure protecting you, I could kill you in one move. Ha! The snake-headed beast man saw Yi Qinghan crawl out of the deep pit again. His face was pale, and half of his bones were broken. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. The beast god on his back was also covered in blood. He laughed proudly in midair, then turned to the beastman commander in the distance and sneered, "Is this the incomparably powerful peak martial artist you were talking about? Why can't you resist a blow from me?" The beastman commanders in the distance all showed mocking expressions when they saw Yi Qinghan being so easily defeated, especially the commander and the Qilin beastman, who had followed Foxy just now. They heaved a sigh of relief, but also felt a little ashamed. It seemed that the commander of the divine realm had no other good points besides having a strong soul. Look, once his soul attack failed, he was no different from a piece of trash. That's not right. Foxy shook her head. She had felt Yi Qinghan's aura before, and it was definitely not this weak. If Yi Qinghan only had a strong soul, he would not have stayed behind to die. She felt that something was wrong, but she could not figure it out. It was only when she saw a hint of mockery in Yi Qinghan's eyes that she came to her senses and shouted, "Your Majesty, be careful." "Ha! It's too late." Yi Qinghan, who looked like he was on the verge of death, suddenly recovered from his injuries. His body also surged with a towering aura. His eyes flashed, and he activated the strongest soul destroyer. 10 God-Slayer spears pierced out of the void and turned into flickering shadows, shooting toward the snake-headed beastman. At the same time, the heart of the fire god on his forehead finally lit up. Chapter 1357. The snake-headed half-beast man was shocked. He turned his head and felt billions of golden soul threads surging into his mind. They were actually 10 times stronger than the soul-destroying attack from before. Although his soul was strong, he was still shocked. That wasn't important. What was important was that he felt 10 spears with the power to destroy heaven and earth shooting towards him. The power of this attack was not much weaker than his strongest attack. The golden soul threads were attacking him crazily. The snake-headed half-beast man could not ignore them. Otherwise, if his soul was in chaos, he would not be able to resist the 10 Godslayer spears even if he did not collapse. He could only grit his teeth and use all his strength to resist the attacks of the golden soul threads. At the same time, he flipped his left hand, and a black flag appeared in his hand. A terrifying aura came from the black flag. It was a paragon's spiritual treasure. "Your Majesty." Foxy was very loyal to the snake-headed half-beast man. When she saw Yi Qinghan take out the Godslayer spear, she immediately rushed forward and gathered her destructive power. She was about to attack. Something's wrong. Halfway there, Foxy suddenly cried out in alarm because she realized that Yi Qinghan had disappeared. Since he had disappeared, his control over his attacks would definitely be weakened. His attacks would not be able to cause any fatal damage to the snake-headed half-beast man. He pretended to be weak and was attacked for a long time. He was almost crushed to death. After acting for so long and setting up such a huge trap, he could not have done it in vain. He must have some ulterior motive. Since his target was not the snake-headed half-beast man, it must be the group of low-level commanders behind him. As expected, Foxy turned her head, but she realized it was already too late. Yi Qinghan's figure abruptly appeared above the heads of the 20 or so half-beastman captains behind her. Her eyes flickered with a strange light as she activated her terrifying soul illusion soul skill once again, which also contained a soul annihilation attack. At the same time, a huge palm appeared in midair. It was a palm that caused her soul to tremble. It was a palm that was twice as powerful as the 10 Godslayer spears. At this moment, all the upper grade 9 commanders were instantly trapped in the soul illusion soul skill. One of the upper grade 9 commanders was also attacked by the soul-destroying attack. All of them stood rooted to the ground in a daze. The huge palm in midair had already smashed down. Boom! There was a loud sound that made Fox Girl's soul tremble. A giant mushroom cloud rose up, and a bottomless crater appeared on the ground. A thick smell of blood filled the air. 2 figures flew out of the deep pit in a sorry state, but Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up again. Then, another 10 Godslayer spears pierced through the void. It shot towards the 2 heavily injured Beastman 9th grade Supremes and started spinning crazily in the air. Bang! Foxy watched as the 2 pierced bodies fell down powerlessly. She watched as the 2 7-colored divine crystals floated into the air and fell down powerlessly. A look of despair appeared on her face. She had the chance to attack just now, but she couldn't even muster up the courage to do so. They could only stare blankly at the fiery red figure in the sky, killing the experts of the Beastman plane one by one. She then looked into the distance at the snake-headed Beastman that had only just gotten rid of the Golden Soul Thread's attack and defeated the God-slaying spear. She muttered weakly, "Is he still human? Is this an attack that a martial artist can use? It's over, it's over. The Beastman plane is completely over. Despicable and shameless human. Is this what you call a one-on-one fight? I'm going to tear you apart. I'm going to tear you apart. I'm going to tear every single person in the divine realm into pieces." The snake-headed Beastman was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Yi Qinghan had actually concealed his strength and then put on a false front. In the end, Yi Qinghan had gone back on his word and smashed all his subordinates, except for Yao Ji, into pieces. 26 experts. Among them, there were 3 9th grade Supremes. This was the majority of the peak experts of the Beastman plane. Other than those lower 9th grade commanders, there was also him, Fox Girl, and a 9th grade Supremes who had stayed behind. The peak experts of the Beastman plane had all died in the hands of Yi Qinghan alone. The snake-headed Beastman's body was trembling. His heart was bleeding, his balls were aching, and his soul was burning. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Yi Qinghan and obtain the supreme spiritual treasure. Otherwise, he would never be able to face his ancestors in the Beastman plane. Divine crystals. They're all divine crystals. What a pity. I don't know if I can bring these divine crystals back to the divine realm. Yi Qinghan looked at the countless divine crystals floating up from the deep pit. They were like magnificent gems, so beautiful that it was dazzling. Moreover, there were 3 chaotic divine crystals among them, but there was not much joy in his heart. He just grabbed them randomly and put them all into the War Emperor Palace. He had used all his strength in that palm strike just now. His soul space had evolved and multiplied the power of the cold power. His intuition was right, his attack had doubled. The problem was, the power was too great. He did not believe that the divine emperor and supreme martial artist at the peak of Mount Pan would not notice it. If Pan Xing finds out, you're dead for sure. The purple-robed woman's words were still echoing in his ears, but Yi Qinghan had no time to think about whether Pan Xing was already preparing to attack him. At this moment, all he could think of was to kill the snake-headed Beastman and Foxy to save the Beast God and Xiaohei's lives. Back then, Pan Xing had killed so many experts from the divine realm, but he did not take back the supreme spiritual treasure. Moreover, the purple-robed woman was also there, so it was very likely that she could save the Beast God and Xiaohei's lives. While he was thinking, the snake-headed Beastman's attack had already arrived. The snake-headed Beastman had obviously gone crazy. He attacked with all his strength. The power of destruction revolved around his fists, and he shot out black fist shadows. The sky was filled with fist shadows. At the same time, the black flag in his hand suddenly unfurled and expanded with the wind, turning into a 10,000-meter-long flag. It emitted a heart-palpitating aura, and it enveloped Yi Qinghan and himself. Supreme spiritual treasure? The power of the black fish shadows, condensed by the power of destruction, has increased by half. Yi Qinghan was shocked when he saw the snake-headed beast man using this flag to protect himself. He had originally thought that this supreme spiritual treasure was a defensive treasure. He did not expect it to be a support-type treasure. He quickly used his divine sense to explore the surroundings, and he was even more shocked. The surrounding space had actually been frozen. In other words, he and the snake-headed beast man could not move. They could only forcefully resist the attack of the black fish shadows. God damn it! Come on, let's die together. Amidst the sparks, Yi Qinghan immediately made a decision. He would perish together with the snake-headed beast man. Since he could not escape, he would forcefully resist. He wanted to bet that he could kill the snake-headed beast man before the energy in the fire god battle armor was completely depleted. The soul destroyer released its full power, and the god slayer spear whistled out, ignoring the attack of the fist shadows. It pierced through the gaps between the fist shadows and went straight for the snake-headed beastman's triangular head. Die, die, die. The snake-headed beast man raised its head and howled. It completely ignored the attack of the golden soul threads, and it did not care about the god slayer spear. He was also betting. He was betting that before Yi Qinghan killed him, the heaven and earth yuan qi stored in the Paragon's spiritual treasure would be completely depleted. He was betting that Yi Qinghan's body would not be able to withstand such a powerful attack, and he would be turned into powder. Terrifying fist shadows that could only cause cracks to appear in space. And with a force that could flatten mountains, they heavily smashed into Yi Qinghan's lower abdomen. Boom! 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 Black fist shadows continuously smashed into Yi Qinghan's lower abdomen. Waves of earth-shaking energy penetrated his body, shaking his divine crystal, shaking his bones, and shaking his internal organs. The fire god battle armor lit up with a dazzling red light, and it forcefully resisted the attack of the black fist shadows. Yi Qinghan's body was sealed by the Paragon's spiritual treasure with the black flag, and he could not move at all. Every time the black fist shadows attacked, his body would tremble, and he would spit out a mouthful of blood. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan had already been hit by dozens of fist shadows. His entire body went limp, and his lower abdomen bent like a shrimp. His face was as pale as snow. However, his gaze was still incomparably firm and bright. He grinned and spat out another mouthful of blood, and he laughed sinisterly. You lost. Die for this young master. Die, die. Chapter 1358. No, no. Impossible. Impossible. The snake-headed half-beast man's crazed howl resounded through the clouds and shook the surroundings. However, regardless of whether he believed it or not, Yi Qinghan had withstood such a terrifying attack. As for Yi Qinghan's attack, he felt that he could not block it at all. The power of God Slayer's spear was twice as strong as his attack. Moreover, it was spinning crazily, easily breaking through the origin energy on the surface of his body. He could already feel a bone-piercing chill coming from his head. He knew very well that even with the protection of the chaotic energy, his sea of soul would immediately collapse after being hit by such a powerful force. He knew that he was finished. Boom! His triangular head exploded. At the moment when his soul dissipated, there was still a doubt in his mind. Under such a powerful attack, even with the protection of the fire god's armor, Yi Qinghan's divine crystal should have been damaged. Once a crack appeared on the divine crystal, the vast amount of energy inside would definitely rush out and cause his body to explode. But why was he not injured at all? This did not make sense. This was very illogical. Although Yi Qinghan's face and body were covered in blood and his body was bent like an earthworm, he did not seem to have suffered any serious injuries. He elegantly grabbed the snake-headed half-beast man's divine crystal and the supreme spiritual treasure black flag, and slowly descended. He suddenly stood up and turned his back to the terrified fox lady. He said coldly, "Seeing that you didn't hurt my ancestor, I'll spare your life today. Take your beastman army and scram back to the stronghold. If I meet you again in the planar battlefield, I'll kill you without mercy." What? Foxy looked at the proud figure in confusion, and the side of his face that looked as if it had been carved by a knife. She could not believe it. Yi Qinghan actually let her go? How could something as bizarre as this happen in the planar battlefield? Even if they were not enemies, she had a ninth-grade supreme divine crystal in her body. Thank you, Emperor Han Yi. Thank you, Emperor Han Yi. Foxy promises that I will never be an enemy of the divine realm. Although Foxy's mind was almost in a mess, she did not hesitate at all. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Yi Qinghan a few times. Then he turned into a blur and shot away. When Foxy disappeared into the white fog, the cold smile on Yi Qinghan's face slowly disappeared. The muscles on his face slowly twisted and his body started to curl up bit by bit. Finally, he fell to the ground with a loud bang and rolled around in pain. The snake-headed beastman's judgment was correct. Under the enhancement of the supreme spiritual treasure black flag, his destructive power had increased by 5 times. Under his all-out attack, although the fire god battle armor protected Yi Qinghan's body, the layers of power still penetrated Yi Qinghan's divine crystal, cracked. But the snake-headed beastman's guess was wrong. Yi Qinghan's divine crystal was empty. There was nothing inside, not even a bit of divine power. Because he had comprehended the path of supremacy, he had been given a small amount of chaotic power. At this moment, it was circulating in his brain to protect it. So although Yi Qinghan's divine crystal had cracked, he did not explode because of the large amount of divine power that rushed out. The divine crystal was the foundation of a martial artist. When the divine realm exploded, the martial artist died. Back in the sealed God Valley, Yi Yao Rao's divine crystal had cracked, and she had been unconscious for many years. Although the soul ring could instantly heal all injuries, it did not include the ability to instantly repair divine crystals. There was no doubt that the soul ring could repair divine crystals. However, there were countless small cracks on Yi Qinghan's divine crystal. To completely repair it, it would take time. Obviously, Yi Qinghan did not let Foxy go because he was soft-hearted. He simply did not have the ability to hurt her. Waves of intense pain came over him. If not for Yi Qinghan's strong willpower and strong nerves, he would have been rolling on the ground in pain. He was rolling on the ground in pain, and in the end, he was easily killed by Foxy. "Ah, old ancestor, Xiaohe, this is all I can do. Whether you can live or not will depend on your luck. Xiaohe, the divine realm will depend on you in the future, my good brother." Although the intense pain made Yi Qinghan hover between life and death, he still endured it. He took out the slaughter god blade from the Battle Emperor Palace and smiled as he used his divine senses to look at the sleeping Xiaohe. Then he stabbed the slaughter god blade into the beast god's back and tied it up. At the same time, he placed all the treasures in the Battle Emperor Palace, including the many divine crystals that he had obtained this time, into an interspatial ring and threw it into the beast god's arms. Finally, he used all his strength and threw the beast god 10,000 miles away. "Supreme God Emperor, come. This young master will wait for you to take my life." "Ah, this young master has enjoyed everything in this life. I have had what I wanted and played with what I wanted. I have no regrets. I only hope that you will not bring harm to my family. Otherwise, this young master will not let you off even if I turn into a malicious spirit." Yi Qinghan's body rolled on the ground in pain. Although the muscles on his face were contorted, there was no pain in his eyes. Instead, they were hazy. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, but the expression on her face was so sweet. Oh, another wave of pain came. Throwing the beast deity out made the injuries in his divine crystal even more severe. He knew that he could not hold on any longer and was about to faint. His eyes became even more hazy. In a daze, he seemed to see Yi Qingyu's pure and flawless face, the peach blossom on Yu Qingqing's head, Yinling Er's alluring figure, Firework's beautiful face. Finally, he saw a black longsword piercing through the air, bringing with it a sharp, killing intent. He closed his eyes and sighed helplessly. Pan Xing's attack had come. Panjie, farewell. In the last moment, he did not think about anything. He did not worry about anything. He did not care about the God realm's survival or the lives of everyone. He had done all he could. All he could do was rest. He was too tired. This world had brought him many good things: glory, power, beautiful women, treasures. But it had also brought him endless pressure and worry. At this moment, he finally felt completely free. In fact, a black longsword really did fly towards his head. However, it was not Pan Xing's. It was Foxy's. Foxy stood thousands of miles away in fear. She used the power of destruction to create a black longsword that hovered above Yi Qinghan's head. However, she did not slash down. Yi Qinghan uncharacteristically let her go. Although she did not understand why, she did not hesitate to run away. However, after running for millions of miles, she felt that something was wrong. Yi Qinghan was not a soft-hearted person. As the ruler of a plane, was it possible that his hands were stained with the blood of billions of lives? There must be something wrong with things that were abnormal. Therefore, she turned around and quietly ran over. In the end, she saw Yi Qinghan rolling on the ground. He was motionless and seemed to have fainted. At that moment, Foxy did not hesitate. She created a black long sword and slashed it at Yi Qinghan. However, when she was about to slash down, she hesitated. She was not a soft-hearted person. She would not feel grateful just because Yi Qinghan let her go. But at this moment, she felt a throbbing in the depths of her soul. It was as if she would be torn to pieces if she moved. She felt an aura lock onto her. The meaning of that aura was very clear. If she moved, she would die immediately. Who had such terrifying power that she, a ninth-grade supreme martial artist, did not even dare to move with just a trace of aura. Foxy did not know. However, after thinking about it, she felt that other than the one at the peak of Mount Pan, no other martial artist could reach such a terrifying level. The next second, she got her answer. However, this answer made her even more confused. A young man in white walked slowly from afar. He was carrying a skinny old man that she was very familiar with. In his hand was a 2-meter-long black longsword. His face was cold, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. It almost caused the destructive power that Foxy had gathered to collapse. The young man did not look at Foxy. Instead, he stared at Yi Qinghan's pale face. His face was filled with pain and guilt. He walked step by step towards Yi Qinghan. His steps were slow. However, in the blink of an eye, he was beside Yi Qinghan. The youth ignored the black longsword that was hovering above their heads and condensed from the powerful destruction power. Thump! He knelt down and reached out a trembling hand to caress Yi Qinghan's face. Then he said in a trembling voice, "Boss, you have suffered. Xiaohe is back." Chapter 1359. The battle in the Scarlet Gobi Desert became even more intense. One man and one beast were like unkillable cockroaches. The more they fought, the braver they became. Hundreds of thousands of warriors and demonic beasts were torn apart by the aftermath of their battle. Of course, this was related to the mysterious atmosphere in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. There seemed to be a magical power in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. Warriors here would become impulsive and bloodthirsty. Moreover, as they killed more people, their soul sea would automatically generate a murderous aura. In the end, they would be completely possessed and become killing machines. They would either kill everyone or be killed. There were more than 70 legions in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. Each legion had at least 1 million people. Some died in Demon Mountain, but at least hundreds of thousands of people. Powerful planes had millions of warriors. A small number of restrictions in the Scarlet Gobi Desert had been raised by the surging energy of the warriors. Hundreds of millions of experts from various planes had gathered here just to win, to not be attacked by other planes, or to obtain the qualification to attack other planes, and to obtain the treasures of heaven and earth, supreme spiritual treasures. Blood had already gathered into a river. Countless blood rivers converged into a blood-colored ocean. On the blood-colored ocean, white, blue, and black badges were everywhere. Like a lotus leaf on a pond, it swayed back and forth, blinding a group of people. But no one went to collect the badges. Here, The badges had lost their effectiveness. There was no need to collect points in the Scarlet Gobi Desert, and there was no time to collect them. Here, the points were automatically recorded. You just had to fight to the death to kill. Here, there were colorful divine crystals floating everywhere in the air, dazzling people's eyes. But other than the 9th grade divine crystals, no one went to collect the rest. Because even if you collected them, perhaps in the next second, your divine crystals and spatial ring would float out of your body and continue to sway in the air. There were corpses everywhere. Humans, beast men, demonic beasts, strange beasts, monsters, mantis men, metal men, aliens. All kinds dazzling and all kinds of smells, nauseating and chilling. This was a paradise for the strong. The strong could squander their powerful strength here, dictating the fate of others. This was also a hell for the strong, the final destination, the graveyard. Ayo! After a long, long time, finally, that incomparably terrifying battle between man and beast ended with the sorrowful howl of the magical beast. In the end, the beast man brandished his iron fist and smashed the 1,000-meter-tall magical beast into a pile of minced meat. However, he was also heavily injured. He fell to the ground powerlessly, causing the ground to shake and crushing the broken limbs below him. Blood splattered everywhere from the impact of the blood-red ocean, dyeing the eyes of the gigantic demonic beast that had died with everlasting regret. Woo! Countless experts of the magical beast race charged at the beastman the moment he landed. Their sharp blue claws were like the scythes of the Grim Reaper. The orcs had killed their king, so they could only use their own lives to avenge their king. A long, long time passed. The beastmen, who were so powerful that they made people's hearts palpitate, were also turned into a pile of minced meat under the onslaught of the magical beasts, floating on the blood-red sea. His 7-colored 9th grade sovereign divine crystal had once again caused the nearby legions to engage in a slaughter, and battle blood was still flowing. The battle was still ongoing, and the experts were still slowly walking into their graves. Could it really be them? Besides this man and beast, who else could be so powerful? But this man and beast are both dead. There's no way to find out. Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan, had also finished watching the show. Although this man and beast had the strength of a 9th grade supreme martial artist, he was still hesitant, unsure if they were the ones who had broken through the barrier of Pan Realm. After pondering for a while, Pan Xing still couldn't find an answer. In the end, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly looked towards the divine realm. And another 9th grade supreme martial artist. This young man in white is so powerful. He actually killed a 9th grade supreme martial artist with one move? Why are the 9th grade supreme martial artists of the Beastmen plain all dead? Could it be that they all died in the hands of this young man? This young man? Why does he seem so familiar to me? When Pan Xing's gaze swept over, the young man in white also made his move. His body turned into a blue dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long, slowly flying towards Foxy. Then, with a swing of the dragon's tail, Foxy was sucked into it. With a flash of green light, Foxy's body instantly turned into dust, corroded and devoured at a speed visible to the naked eye. What was extremely strange was that from the beginning to the end, Foxy's body didn't move at all. She didn't escape, didn't resist, didn't even let out a scream. After killing a 9th grade supreme martial artist so easily, the young man in white didn't have a hint of complacency on his face. In fact, his expression didn't even change a bit. He continued to carry the skinny old man on his back, bent down to carry Yi Qinghan, and walked into the distance. Blue Dragon? Devoured? I was wondering why this young man looked so familiar. So he's the abnormality that was formed from the supreme, slaughtering god saber. Previously, when someone broke through the barrier of Pan Realm, he wasn't this powerful, so it's not him. It's considered normal for an abnormality born from the supreme, slaughtering god saber to have such strength. Pan Xing's eyes revealed an as expected expression, but he didn't care. He looked around the plain battlefield, but he didn't find any other powerful martial artists. He couldn't help but think back to the battle between the man and the beast, trying to analyze who the person was that broke through the barrier of Pan Realm. Phew. As expected, as expected. He's definitely the next candidate for the position of Divine Emperor. In the small wooden house on the left, Pan Shi's face was full of joy, like a little girl who had done a good deed. Her watery eyes were sparkling, so beautiful that it was dazzling. He didn't die even after all this. This must be fate. Pan Huang really predicted everything. He must have predicted that I would make a move. Pan Shi blinked her eyes and smiled as she murmured. After a while, she frowned doubtfully and sighed. It's just that. I've already made a move. Why isn't my heart calmed down? Could it be that my heart tribulation is not over yet? Pan Shi shook her head and didn't speak anymore. She frowned slightly, tilted her head, and started to ponder. 2 days. It'll be 1 month in 2 days. There's still 2 more days. Emperor, you have to hold on. Within a dense forest of the plain battlefield, 1,000,000 Yi family troops were like a giant beast that laid there silently. Gongtian and the other 4 were hiding around and scouting the situation. Wind Moon Monarch continued to lay out restrictions. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen stood on an old tree and looked into the distance. They looked towards the direction of the God World stronghold. Gongtian's soul flame didn't float over. Gongtian was still Yi Qinghan's soul slave. Gongtian wasn't dead yet. That meant that Yi Qinghan was still alive. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen would look towards Gongtian, who was hiding in the distance. Each second that passed, their hearts would beat faster and faster. It was a good thing to be stared at by beauties, especially 2 top beauties. But at this moment, Gongtian was filled with rage. That was because these 2 beauties didn't look at him because they admired him or loved him. Instead, they came to see whether or not he was dead. A living person was being stared at every day to see whether or not he was dead. How could Gongtian be in a good mood? Die. Yi Qinghan, you have to die. I will definitely return my soul fire to you. Don't worry. This great emperor will help you rule the divine world. This great emperor will also take good care of your woman. Gongtian hatefully looked towards the direction of the God world, waiting for the soul flame in his imagination to float over. Yi Qinghan said that before he died, he would return the soul flame. Flame, soul flame. An hour later, Gongtian's eyes opened wide and he shouted. His face was filled with joy as he looked at a dark yellow flame in the white mist. Chapter 1360. However, before the ecstasy on his face could fully bloom, in the distant white mist, the dark yellow flame turned from 1 to 2. Finally, in the white mist, a faint dark yellow light began to appear, like the ghost fire of the netherworld, frightening to look at. Gongtian came back to his senses and shouted, "Everyone, be on guard, enemy attack." When Zhu Yi and the Ice Queen heard Gongtian shout, their hearts sank. Then, when they used their divine senses to check, they were overjoyed. Then, when the 2 of them felt the terrifying aura coming from the white fog, they were terrified. One-eyed monster, didn't they go to Blood Desert? Why are they back at the stronghold? All Yi family troops, retreat immediately. Rank 9 powerhouses cover. Moon Breeze control the restrictions and stop the enemy. Zhu Yi's body turned into a streak of light as she flew forward. At the same time, she turned her head and shouted. This dense forest was the one-eyed monster's stronghold. It was 10 million miles to the right of the divine world stronghold. In between, there was the demonic plane and another medium-sized military plane. When Gongtian found out that all the one-eyed monsters had gone to Blood Desert, they discussed and decided to use this place as their stronghold. After some discussion, everyone decided to use this place as their base of operations. After a month, they would be teleported to the peak of Mount Pan. Who knew that in just a few days, the one-eyed monster army would turn around and come back? Gongtian found out that there were more than 2 rank 9 supreme powerhouses in the one-eyed monster army. If the entire army returned, the divine world army would be wiped out without a doubt. In the white fog, more and more yellow light appeared. What made Zhu Yi and the rest terrified was the yellow light did not appear in one direction, but in all directions. Reporting to your majesty. One-eyed monster appeared on the left. Reporting to your majesty. One-eyed monster appeared on the right. Your majesty, one-eyed monster appeared on the back too. As expected, just as the Yi family troops started to retreat, the scouts from all directions sent the news over. They were surrounded. Everyone, get into formation and fight to the death. There's still 1.5 days. As long as we hold on for 1.5 days, we can retreat from the battle immediately. Zhu Yi forced herself to calm down and shouted in a stern voice. Zhu Yi's words jolted everyone who was in despair. The single-horn monsters were much stronger than the Golden Dragon Plane as a whole. Without Yi Qinghan, everyone felt as if they had lost their pillar of support. Facing an invincible enemy, their morale immediately plummeted. However, Zhu Yi's words made them understand that this time was different. This time, they didn't have to fight to the death with the one-horned monster. As long as they could defend for 1.5 days, they would be able to survive. He would be able to return to the divine world. A glimmer of hope ignited in everyone's hearts. Although the great emperor is not here, our great emperor's soldiers will never yield. Countless Yi family soldiers had the same thought in their minds. Suddenly, the morale of the small forest rose like a rainbow. Killing intent filled the air. Gigi, the one-eyed monster, had finally completed its deployment and was beginning to slowly attack. The cyclopean beast was somewhat similar to a rat. It wasn't very large, only 0.5 meter long. It had a single horn, a single eye, and an enormous mouth. It trained in the elemental laws of the earth, and it was extremely fast and defensively powerful. Its attacks were simple. Its sharp teeth were comparable to a supreme combat saber. Gigi, the entire mountain range of cyclopean beasts began to attack. This time, the army of cyclopean beasts had arrived in large numbers. There were at least 10 million of them. For some reason, they didn't go to the bloody desert. The entire army had returned to the base. The first to attack were the low-level, God-Emperor cyclopean beasts. The more powerful beasts watched from afar, their faint yellow eyes filled with coldness. Yi family army, fall into formation. All soldiers, listen up. Focus on staying alive. Use delaying tactics. Don't kill the cyclopean beasts in large numbers. Our goal is to buy time. Zhu Yi was overjoyed when he saw this. He immediately gave the order. The cyclopean army had actually sent out a low-level army to attack first. Zhu Yi, who had been preparing to fight to the death, immediately changed his strategy. He wanted to play with the low-level beasts first. The longer they dragged things out, the better it would be for their side. Gigi, countless cyclopean beasts of various colors, let out hair-raising cries. They transformed into shadowy figures that shot towards the forest. Even before they arrived, their mouths were wide open, revealing sharp teeth that gleamed with cold light. They were like locusts, densely packed and covering the land. Ice Queen, area attack, slow down. Zhu Yi stood in midair. His gaze was like lightning. He spread out his divine sense to scout the situation around and give the most accurate orders. Ice Queen's body spun up and danced in the air. A sky full of snow started to fall. The snowflakes landed on the low-level cyclopean beast bodies, causing their speed to slow down. Ice Queen's special ability was most suitable for group battles. Yi family army, attack. 50% God power, attack without discrimination. When half of the millions of cyclopean beasts entered the forest, Zhu Yi gave the order once more. 1 million Yi family army pulled out their blades at the same time. They released their God power and slashed forwards. Xiao! 1 million crescent-shaped blade lights slashed out. Where they passed, the ancient trees, flowers, vines, and thorns were all turned to dust. Even the grass was sliced off. Honk! 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 Beautiful fireworks lit up one after another, forming a magnificent scene. The entire jungle was covered in flashing lights, making it hard for people to open their eyes. Numerous cyclopean beasts were forced back by the strong energy, and they smashed into the ones behind. Instantly, the army was in chaos. But under the disbelieving gazes of Zhu Yi and all the grade 9 Yi family army, A million Yi family army with 50% god power could easily kill normal god emperors. However, they didn't kill a single cyclopean beast. Not a single one of them was injured. All of them rolled on the ground, got up again, and charged into the dense forest. All Yi family army, attack without discrimination, Zhu Yi shouted. She originally wanted to drag time and not let the Yi family army go all out. She was afraid that if they killed too many, the strong cyclopean beasts behind would attack. Now they had no choice but to go all out. Otherwise, if millions of low-level cyclopean beasts charged forward, it would be a chaotic battle. Who knew how many of the million Yi family army would survive? Hong, 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 Hong. Beautiful fireworks bloomed again. The Yi family army attacked with all their might. Finally, a cyclopean beast was killed. However, more cyclopean beasts came from the sky, from the ground, and even from underground. The defense of these cyclopean beasts was terrifying. Their bodies were covered in a layer of faint white light, as if they were protected by a trace of origin energy. A small number of cyclopean beasts were charging from underground. They suddenly emerged from the ground, opened their mouths, and slashed with their sharp teeth. In an instant, half of the legs of countless Yi family army soldiers were gone. All grade 9 powerhouses, attack with all your might. Kill the low-level cyclopean beasts in a large area. We can't let their main army charge forward. Otherwise, we'll all die. Even Zhu Yi, who was resourceful, panicked at this moment. There was nothing she could do. The cyclopean beast's strong defense, terrifying speed, and teeth that were comparable to a supreme artifact. Once their main army got close, the final outcome would be total annihilation. Chapter 1361. All the grade 9 experts moved. Gong Tian didn't use his blood-refined spear. Instead, he pushed with his hands, forming a water dragon that roared out. The grade 9 supreme martial artist used the power of space. Its strength was shocking. Everywhere the water dragon passed, pieces of the one-eyed beast's flesh and blood flew. Gong Tian and the others also formed all sorts of water pillars and arrows to attack the one-eyed beasts in all directions. They didn't chase for maximum strength, only for the area of effect to be large. The Ice Queen's solo dance in the sky became even more alluring. The snowflakes in the sky became thicker, and there were even ice shards mixed in. The snowflakes landed on the one-eyed beast's bodies, causing their speed to become slower. The ice shards were also able to kill them one by one. Wind Moon's sovereign didn't move. His role wasn't to attack, but to control the restrictions. Zhu Yi didn't move either. As Yi Qinghan's woman and the commander of the army, she had to observe everything and give orders. The one-eyed beasts died one by one. In the blink of an eye, close to 1 million were gone. However, these one-eyed beasts still didn't retreat. They stubbornly continued to charge forwards. Zhi. Only when this weird sound rang out did all the one-eyed beasts feel like they were being pardoned. At their fastest speed, they all charged towards the ground. In the blink of an eye, they drilled into the black stone and disappeared. Zhi. There was another strange cry, and then, in the surrounding white fog, countless golden monsters suddenly appeared. There were hundreds of them, and they formed a circle surrounding the dense forest. These golden one-eyed monsters were a lot bigger. Each of them was more than 1 meter long. The cold light in the vertical eye was even colder. Zhi. These golden beasts didn't attack. Instead, they all opened their mouths and bared their teeth as they cried out. The sound that caused one's hair to stand on end turned into visible sound waves that spread all around. It caused the white mist all around to become thinner. Zhi. Millions of low-grade one-eyed beasts all drilled out of the ground and cried out. Their voices shook the sky and reverberated all around. Then, these low-grade beasts all knelt on the ground like they were welcoming their king. Their king had indeed appeared. As the group of monsters screamed, 5 dark gold, one-eyed monsters flew out of the air. Strangely enough, these 5 dark gold, one-eyed monsters did not release any aura at all. Yet, as soon as they appeared, Zhu Yi, who was in the distance, fell into despair. Ninth grade supreme martial artist. 5 ninth grade supreme martial artist one-eyed monsters. There were also hundreds of rank 9 one-eyed monsters. This was a force so powerful that it could annihilate more than half of the legions in the planar battlefield. Even if Yi Qinghan were here, he probably wouldn't be able to do anything, right? Zhu Yi's body fell down powerlessly. Ice Queen stopped dancing in the sky and was stunned as she looked at the 5 people in midair. Gong Tian's hands trembled, and the water dragons dancing in the air disintegrated. The Gong Wei 4 opened their mouths wide, their bodies trembling in fear. Tens of thousands of the 1 million Yi family soldiers died in the earlier battle. The remaining 900,000 cultivators all sheathed their sabers and stood silently. No one said a word, nor did they do anything, but from their eyes, one could sense a kind of despair. Wang! Outside of the forest, a bright light flashed and sparks shone. The Wind Moon Monarch had accidentally opened all the restrictions because of his fear. The gorgeous restriction released a tremendous pressure. A dazzling divine light illuminated the forest. It also made everyone's ashen white faces turn even whiter. Pili Pala, Pala Pala. Apart from the sounds of the restrictions shining, the entire area was deathly silent. The suppressive aura made one suffocate, make one go mad, and make one tremble in fear. You bastard human, you're sneakily investigating our mighty Cyclops Legion. You think I don't know? Forget about it. You actually dare to invade our stronghold? Originally, this king didn't want to kill you, but you bastards are too annoying. So, all of you can die. The dark gold, one-eyed monster at the front suddenly opened its mouth. It could actually speak human language. However, human language was common in the planar world, so it was normal for this monster to be able to learn it. He stretched out a claw and pointed proudly at Gong Tian. His pale yellow eyes were filled with mocking and disdain. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Honorable sir, this is a misunderstanding. This lowly one didn't spy on your army's consciousness, nor did I have any intention of invading your stronghold. Sir, we will immediately retreat. We only ask that you spare our lives. Hearing this, Gong Tian's eyes turned, and he immediately revealed an ashamed expression. He shouted and bowed slightly to express his respect and submission. Gong Tian also struggled and howled, "Yes, yes. It's all a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. As long as sir can let us go, we can discuss any conditions." Oh! The king of the one-eyed monster revealed a surprised expression. Then his single eye turned, and a hint of playfulness flashed through it. He grinned and said, "Yes, this king can let the 2 of you go, but you have to kill the others, and this king will let you live." Zhu Yi snorted in disdain. Only a child would believe this kind of trick. This king of the one-eyed monsters was really a pain in the ass. He actually played this kind of trick. The other people present also revealed mocking expressions. Even a pig wouldn't fall for it. Sir, is this true? Can we swear a divine emperor blood oath? Unexpectedly, Gong Tian and Gong Tian suddenly flew forward, then half knelt on the ground and looked straight at the king of the one-eyed monsters, their eyes filled with fanaticism and hope. Zhu Yi and the others were stunned when they saw that Gong Tian and Gong Tian seemed to be grasping at the last straw of hope. They actually believed the words of the monsters from another plane. Then, all of them became enraged. Zhu Yi immediately started cursing loudly. "Idiots! The divine crystals and badges you have are the most expensive." Squeak. Wrong. This king doesn't lack divine crystals or points. This king's words are made of gold and jade, and I never lie. Do it. If you don't, this king will do it. The king of the one-eyed monsters shook his head and grinned. Then his aura slowly began to condense, and the 4 dark golden monsters next to him also increased their aura. Hundreds of rank 9 monsters around them released their murderous aura at the same time. Instantly, the entire dense forest was enveloped by the soaring aura. Countless Yi family soldiers couldn't even move under this aura. All right, let's do it. Gong Tian and Gong Tian looked at each other, a fierce look in their eyes. Their aura condensed, and the two walked into the dense forest step by step, their eyes filled with murderous intent. They actually wanted to attack the martial artist from the divine realm for their own survival. Stupid, extremely stupid. Zhu Yi's eyes widened in disbelief. Today was a situation of certain death, with no hope of escaping. But if they were so easily manipulated by the martial artist from another plane, and everyone died in the hands of their own people, Zhu Yi felt extremely sullen and angry. Under the threat of death, for an almost impossible hope of survival, Gong Tian and Gong Tian actually believed a lie that could not even deceive a child, bared their ferocious fangs, and attacked their own people, Squeak. However, before Gong Tian's fangs could fully open, 5 dark golden shadows turned into 5 dark golden lightning bolts, shooting toward the two of them. Gong Tian and Gong Tian originally turned their heads and faced the countless angry eyes of the Divine Realm army. They were a little confused and a little frightened. They secretly made up their minds, ready to attack, and their hearts were very unsteady. At this moment, under the sneak attack of 5 ninth-grade supreme martial artists, coupled with the terrifying speed of the one-eyed monster, it was actually able to withstand a single move. The spear that was hurriedly stabbed back did not even manage to pierce through the monster's skin. Its body was torn into pieces by 3 big mouths. Only a rainbow divine crystal, a blood-red spear, and a space ring were left floating in the air. Gong Tian was killed by 3 ninth-grade supreme martial artists in a second, and Gong Tian was even more vulnerable when facing 2 ninth-grade supreme martial artists. He did not even have time to counterattack, and was turned into a pile of minced meat. Emperor Gong Tian. The remaining 3 ninth-grade experts of the Water God clan were ashamed and angry, howling in grief. They flew out crazily, ready to drag some one-eyed monsters into the water even if they had to die. Everyone listen to my command. Charge, break out. Whether you can escape or not depends on your fate. Ice Queen, Wind Moon Monarch, attack. Even if we die, we will drag a few of you down with us. Zhu Yi gave a tragic smile. The aura on her body surged, blocking the aura of the one-eyed monster, allowing the Yi family army to move freely. At the same time, her body turned into a dragon and charged at the one-eyed monster. Ice Queen and Wind Moon Monarch were clear that there might be a small portion of the Yi family army that could break out of the chaos. However, none of them would be able to escape. Their eyes were filled with the intent to die. They raised their heads and roared, charging out. The one-eyed monster king grabbed the blood-refined spear in one hand and the god crystal in the other. He laughed out loud. "Ha, the supreme spiritual treasure is right in front of me. You humans can't even take a single blow. Children, tear apart all the humans for this king." Zhi. All the one-eyed monsters gave out a sharp roar. They were really excited, turning into ferocious beasts that surged towards the god world warriors. At this time, a huge pressure suddenly descended, enveloping the surroundings. All the Celestial World Legion and the one-eyed monster were all enveloped in it. What was really weird was that under this suppressive force, all the God World warriors and the one-eyed monsters couldn't move at all. Even the 5 Supreme King-level one-eyed monsters couldn't move at all. You can't rip them apart. My people are not something that you one-eyed monsters can kill. Oh right, the blood-refined spear in your hand is mine too. An indifferent voice could be heard. From the white fog in the distance, 3 figures could be seen walking over slowly. The person at the front was wearing a green robe. He didn't give off any god power or aura at all. He had a warm smile on his face. Beside him was a teen in a white shirt. His face was cold, and his aura was as heavy as a mountain. No one dared to look at him directly. On the other side was a skinny old man. His face was like the bark of a tree. He was smiling brightly, like an old tree that was in spring. "Emperor! It's Emperor!" All the martial artists of the Divine World Legion trembled in fear at this moment. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen's faces were as red as blood. Their eyes were like peach blossoms. Their bodies couldn't stop shaking like they were about to explode. Chapter 1362. This The king of the one-eyed monsters struggled to withstand the enormous pressure, staring at the three people in the distance in disbelief. Finally, he locked on to the white-robed young man. Because the overwhelming pressure that made him unable to summon any will to fight came from this young man. The young man was very ordinary. His spirited eyes were filled with arrogance. Although he was extremely handsome by human standards, no matter how one looked at him, he was just an ordinary human. Why? Why did he have such a powerful pressure that made everyone unable to summon any will to fight? Could he be a divine Emperor Supreme? He must be. If he wasn't a legendary divine Emperor Supreme, he couldn't be so powerful. But his aura was different from Pan Xing's. Could it be that there were many divine emperors? That couldn't be right. The divine Emperor Supreme had no reason to do so, because he sensed a killing intent from this young man. Also, why was this young man standing half a step behind the green-robed man? And it was the green-robed man who had spoken just now. Could it be that this green-robed man was even more terrifying than that young man? How could it be? You can't tear them apart. Do you think one-eyed monsters like you can kill my people? Oh, right. The blood-refined spear in your hand belongs to me too. The king of the one-eyed monsters was even more confused when he recalled the green-robed man's words. What he meant was that the humans before him were his people. In other words, the three of them were humans, not divine emperors. But could a martial artist reach such a level of strength? He had never seen one, not even in the records left by his ancestors. The king of the one-eyed monsters was completely confused. But in the next second, he was completely free. Xiaohei, kill all the experts above the 9th level. Yi Qinghan spoke calmly. The faint smile on his face was as warm as the spring breeze. But in the ears of the high-level one-eyed monsters, it was like the voice of the Grim Reaper. Piece of cake. Xiaohei reached out a hand, smoothed the black hair on his forehead, and shook his head in a flashy manner. His legs kicked the ground lightly, and his body shot forward. In midair, his body began to transform into a huge blue dragon. Its body was hundreds of thousands of meters long, and its pair of icy green eyes made all the one-eyed monsters feel a chill in their hearts. All the low-level one-eyed beasts were suppressed by the terrifying aura of the blue dragon. They prostrated on the ground, unable to even stand on their four limbs. GG, let's fight. The king of the one-eyed monsters let out a strange cry, and a dark golden light shone from its body. It resisted the pressure and flew toward the blue dragon in the sky. The other four monsters and hundreds of rank 9 monsters also let out a strange cry. They did not hesitate to burn their body's origin, preparing for the final attack. You overestimate yourself. You can't even withstand a single blow. The blue dragon in midair opened its massive mouth and spat out a few words. Its hundreds of thousands of meters long body danced in the air, wrapping around everyone. It ignored everyone's attacks and began to forcefully corrode and devour them. All the one-eyed monsters discovered an extremely terrifying scene. They had teeth and fangs that were comparable to transcendent-grade divine weapons, but they could not use them at all. When their claws and fangs attacked the blue dragon, they felt like they were attacking a quagmire. They were sticky and had a slight rebound force, but they did not harm the blue dragon at all. Their powerful defense was comparable to the power of origin and the power of primordial chaos. However, under the cover of the condensed green liquid from the blue dragon's body, they were continuously corroded and devoured. Moreover, they could not move their bodies at all. The hundreds of rank 9 one-eyed monsters and the 5 dark golden monster kings felt like children who had fallen into a quagmire. No matter how they struggled, how they resisted, it was useless. On the contrary, the more they resisted, the faster their bodies were corroded. Gradually, hundreds of low-level one-horned beasts stopped struggling and began to become part of the blue dragon's nutrients, disappearing from heaven and earth. It's over. It's all over. We're finished. And the one-eyed sacred world plane is also finished. I should have gone to the bloody Gobi Desert. I shouldn't have come back. The one-eyed monster king's consciousness became weaker and weaker. In the end, He looked at the sky with great nostalgia, leaving behind a deep sigh and helplessness. Ayo! After the blue dragon finished devouring, it raised its head and roared at the sky, turning into a white silhouette and flying back slowly. It was still standing behind Yi Qinghan, its head slightly lowered, its face turned to the side, and it stroked its hair. It looked indifferent and unconcerned, as if it was as easy as crushing a few ants to death. The pressure came quickly, and it disappeared quickly as well. The moment Xiao He flew back and stroked his hair, Long Da's pressure disappeared without a trace. However, all the one-eyed beasts still didn't dare to move. They all prostrated on the ground and looked at Xiao He in horror, as if they were looking at the most terrifying demon king in hell. All the warriors of the Celestial Realm army also didn't make a sound. They all looked at Yi Qinghan, at the beast god, and at Xiao He, who had a calm expression and kept stroking his hair, as if he was afraid that others didn't know he was an expert. Good afternoon, Jet of the Teardrop God's Grace. Why are you all looking at us like idiots? Why don't you welcome us back? Yi Qinghan smiled warmly and glanced at the crowd. Finally, his eyes fixed on Zhu Yi and the Ice Queen beside her. He stretched out his hands like a kind priest. Jet of the Teardrop God's Grace? Everyone blinked in confusion, not understanding the meaning of this strange language that Yi Qinghan brought from his previous life. However, that wasn't important anymore. What was important was that the Emperor was back. Sir Xiao He and the Beast God had returned and saved them from despair once more. Welcome, Emperor. Welcome, Sir Xiao He. Welcome, Sir Beast God. All the Yi family army didn't bother about the one-eyed beasts in the distance. All of them knelt down on one knee, holding their chests and lowering their heads as they shouted. An earth-shattering voice broke through the sky and reverberated in all directions. Zhu Yi didn't kneel down. An intoxicated smile appeared on her face. Tears flowed from her eyes, and her body was still trembling. Her hair was messed up from the battle just now, and her clothes were also a little messy. However, she didn't care about anything. She stepped forward and lifted her skirt. Like a moth flying into a flame, she pounced at Yi Qinghan. Woo! Welcome, Emperor! The Ice Queen and Zhu Yi stood together and looked over. She thought that Yi Qinghan was looking at her and was about to hug her. At that moment, her body convulsed violently. She subconsciously ran forward a few steps, only to discover that Zhu Yi had transformed into a gust of wind and had already pounced forward into Yi Qinghan's embrace. Only then did she suddenly understand. She knelt down on one knee and whispered. She lowered her head deeply, and her face was as red as a boiled crab. Beast God, this Lord Little Black, how was my action just now? Was it handsome? Did I have the aura of an expert? Did I have the elegance of boss? Was the way I stroked my hair cool enough? When Xiao He saw that everyone's attention was focused on Yi Qinghan, he quietly leaned towards the beast deity. His expression did not change, but his quick-witted eyes turned as he asked in a low voice. Handsome, much more handsome than I was back then. Lord Xiao He, when you return to the God Realm, you will definitely charm a bunch of girls. The beast god smiled and gave a thumbs up to Xiao He. Then, he hugged Zhu Yi tightly and said softly to Yi Qinghan, Little Han, what should we do with these low-level one-eyed monsters? Yi Qinghan lightly patted Zhu Yi's smooth shoulder and said with a faint smile, Xiao He, do you want to devour it? If you don't want to devour them, then let everyone in the Yi family army choose a monster to be their war beast. Let them offer up their soul fire. These one-eyed rats are extremely fast and have strong defense. Chapter 1363. When Yi Qinghan's message was sent out, all the Yi family soldiers were overjoyed. These one-eyed beasts had incredible speed and defense. Although their attacks were simple, relying only on their teeth and claws, their teeth and claws were hard and sharp. How cool would it be to capture a beast that was as strong as them, or even stronger, as a mount to bring back to the divine realm? Many one-eyed beasts that could understand human language also sent the message. Countless one-eyed beasts were secretly delighted. Would want to die if they could. Almost all the experts in the one-eyed sacred world were annihilated. This time, the one-eyed sacred world was definitely a defeated dimension. If they returned, they would be killed by experts from other dimensions. Although they were now someone else's mount, there was still hope as long as they were alive, right? Of course, there were still some one-eyed beasts that did not want to become someone else's mount. They screamed and charged toward the Yi family soldiers. However, after Xiao He smoothed his hair and snorted coldly, they were immediately pressed to the ground, unable to move. Then, they were cut into pieces by the swarming Yi family soldiers. Among the remaining 2 million one-eyed beasts, nearly 2 million offered their soul fires under the instruction of the Yi family soldiers. Every soldier in the Yi family soldiers had at least 2 one-eyed beasts as their soul slaves. Of course, Monarch Windmoon and the other rank 9 experts would not be so bored as to get 1 or 2 mounts. After capturing the one-eyed beasts, Yi Qinghan ordered all the Yi family soldiers to stand guard in the dense forest. The other 3 rank 9 experts from the Water God clan led the troops. Then, he brought Xiao He and Monarch Windmoon and Beast God into the War Emperor Palace. Emperor, Lord Xiao He, Beast God, I am so happy that you can come back safely. Emperor, all the experts from the Beastmen dimension were killed? Was it Lord Xiao He who did it? Lord Xiao He, you have evolved, and your attack power is so terrifying? That's great. With the great Emperor and Lord Xiao He around, the God Realm will definitely regain its former glory. As soon as she entered the War Emperor Palace, Zhu Yi was like a happy little bird, chattering nonstop. In her opinion, what Yi Qinghan had experienced was almost certain death. If he didn't make a move, he would definitely be killed by the Beastmen. If he made a move, he would be killed by Pan Xing. Now that she was able to return safely and Xiao He's strength had increased to an unbelievable level, she thought that Xiao He must have evolved in time and killed the enemy in one fell swoop. Xiao He shook his head and gave an answer that surprised Zhu Yi. Wrong. Almost all the experts in the Beastmen plane were killed by him alone. I only killed a 9th grade supreme martial artist. The Beast God was also saved by Boss. Ah, then that person didn't notice? Zhu Yi's beautiful eyes widened as she looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. I don't know, but a few days have passed. He didn't do anything, so he should be fine. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He didn't know what was going on either. Did the purple-dressed girl lie to him? Or when he attacked, Pan Xing wasn't paying attention to this side. No matter what, when Yi Qinghan woke up, it was already 2 days later. Xiao He had brought him tens of thousands of miles away, and the Beast God had woken up too. Xiao He's senses were accurate, and they really found the God Realm. At the most crucial moment, the 3 of them rushed over. Since Pan Xing didn't attack after so long, that meant that he probably wouldn't attack. After all, the God Emperor was a supreme martial artist, and it was also in the plane of existence battlefield. It would be extremely easy for him to kill them. Ice Queen, Wind Moon Monarch, and even the Beast God heard the conversation between Zhu Yi and Yi Qinghan and found it weird. But seeing that they didn't intend to say more, they didn't dare to ask. Zhu Yi's beautiful eyes turned, and she didn't ask anymore. She turned to look at Xiao He, who was sitting at the side and stroking his hair. She said with respect, Lord Xiao He, why is your strength so terrifying? The great Emperor's strength is already extremely sick, but you are even more sick than him. Are you still considered a martial artist? Have you reached the God Emperor Supreme martial artist level? Also, has your body completely turned into a physical form? Xiao He didn't turn his head. Half of his face was facing them, and a hint of loneliness appeared on his face. He shook his head slightly and sighed. I don't know what realm I am in now, but I can kill as many as a grade 9 supreme martial artist comes. Maybe, I, Lord Xiao He, have already reached the peak of a martial artist. Haze, why do I feel a hint of sadness and loneliness in my heart? My strength is too high, and I don't have a single opponent. It's a helpless thing. Get lost. Yi Qinghan looked at the flashy Xiao He and laughed out loud. He looked at him lovingly and smiled. Xiao He's body has already turned into a physical form, but he can't be considered a human yet. As for his strength, It's beyond grade 9 supreme martial artist. Of course, if he goes against a god emperor supreme martial artist, he will definitely be killed in an instant. Huh? Why is the great emperor so sure? Ice Queen and Wind Moon Monarch looked at each other and asked curiously. Xiao Hei's aura alone could make a grade 9 supreme martial artist unable to resist. His strength had already reached an unimaginable level. Why could he still kill a god emperor supreme martial artist in an instant? Aura. Yi Qinghan said with certainty, "You can't feel it, but I can easily feel that Xiao Hei's aura is very different from a god emperor supreme martial artist's aura. A god emperor supreme martial artist's aura can make me lose my will to fight, but I don't feel the same way about Xiao Hei's aura." Xiao Hei pouted and said disapprovingly, "Boss, why do I need to be so strong? I am invincible now. There's no point in becoming stronger. Lord Xiao Hei, can finally transform. I wonder how excited Shui and Yao Yao will be when they see me." Yi Qinghan peeked at Xiao Hei and smiled evilly. "Xiao Hei, your body is turned into a physical form. Can that thing be used?" "Of course it can be used." Little Black's eyes widened, and he secretly glanced at the crowd. He transmitted his voice. "Boss, at this moment, my thing can grow bigger and bigger as I wish. It can even bend. When I return to the divine realm, I must pick up girls, a bunch of peerless beauties. No, when we return to the divine realm, boss, you must bestow me with the title of Great Emperor. This title is so cool. Combined with my handsome and elegant appearance, it will be easy to pick up girls. A title is no problem. I can even let you sit on my seat." Yi Qinghan smiled and transmitted his voice. "But if you want to pick up girls, you'll have to get past Shui first. If she agrees, I will do my best to help you. You can even have a harem of 3,000 beauties." Xiao Hei withered at the mention of Li Shui's name. His quick-witted eyes moved quickly, obviously trying to think of a way to convince Li Shui. "All right." Yi Qinghan smiled and stood up. He looked at everyone and said, "Don't think too much. There's one more day until the 1-month period is up. Tomorrow, we will announce our withdrawal from the war. We will teleport to the peak of Mount Pan and then teleport back to the divine realm. Everyone, take a rest first. We will talk about everything after we return to the divine realm." Everyone smiled brightly, filled with the joy of surviving a disaster. Especially Zhu, who was as happy as a little girl who had just fallen in love. Her face was flushed, and her peach blossom eyes glanced at Yi Qinghan from time to time. She blinked and hinted at him. However, Yi Qinghan pretended not to see it. In the end, she couldn't help but roll her eyes, straighten her clothes, and solemnly say to Yi Qinghan, "Your Majesty, Zhu has some matters that I would like to discuss with you alone." "Is that so? All right." Yi Qinghan turned his head with some astonishment. After muttering to himself for a moment, he reluctantly nodded. Then he immediately brought Zhu to another room. Tui, Xiao Hei spat out a mouthful of saliva, not hiding his disdain towards this cheating couple. Wind Moon Sovereign and Beast God turned their heads in embarrassment. Ice Queen's face was flushed red. Her eyes were filled with shyness and envy. She couldn't control herself. Chapter 1364. This is the peak of Mount Pan? Why is there nothing here? This place feels mystical. Mount Pan doesn't look that big. Why can't we see the end of this peak? Everyone stay alert. There are experts from other planes coming over. After Yi Qinghan announced his withdrawal, a white light engulfed everyone from the deity plane. The white light flashed, and everyone appeared in a plaza. The plaza was vast and boundless. Even Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei's divine senses could only scan 10,000 miles. There was nothing around the plaza. No people, no buildings. There were only the same black stones of the planar battlefield. Buzz! Armies from other planes could be heard from afar. However, they were all weak planes. They either had enough points and didn't want to win, or they surrendered to avoid being massacred. "All of you shut up. Stand where you are and don't move." Anyone who dares to make a sound will be killed without mercy. Yi Qinghan was about to restrain his subordinates from speaking carelessly. An ethereal voice resounded in the plaza. The voice seemed to come from the 9 heavens, yet it seemed to be right next to one's ears. The voice was emotionless, but it carried a trace of boundless killing intent. It was a killing intent that could make one's soul palpitate. Pan Xing. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. However, he didn't stupidly use his divine senses to scan. He immediately transmitted a message to Xiao He not to scan. Otherwise, not to mention angering Pan Xing, it would be over if Pan Xing became suspicious. However, Yi Qinghan could feel that Pan Xing was definitely standing on the peak of Mount Pan. Perhaps he was standing right in front of everyone. There must be a powerful illusion restriction on the peak of Mount Pan that prevented everyone from seeing him. Yi Qinghan's guess was right. Pan Xing was indeed standing in front of everyone. Moreover, there were 3 small wooden houses on the other side of the crowd. However, no one could see or detect him. It was extremely strange. Pan Xing's body wasn't tall. He was dressed in black and had black hair. His gaze was like a knife. His face was expressionless, but deep in his eyes, there was a trace of natural arrogance, as if he was looking down on all living things. From time to time, legions would be teleported up. Many legions had died, and only had a few thousand people left. Of course, there were also legions that did not suffer many casualties. All the planes that were teleported here, although they detected that there were creatures from other planes around them, they didn't dare to move recklessly. Moving recklessly here would be courting death. Buzz! Another plane was teleported over. There were not many people in this plane. It was the Mantis Plane Army, and there were less than 100,000 of them. Countless Mantis men were covered in blood. Their eyes were bloodshot. It was obvious that they had been fighting a bloody battle just now. It was only because the rank 9 powerhouse in the team had surrendered that they were teleported here. Ao. When they first arrived, many of the Mantis men's eyes were still bloodshot. They were not fully conscious. When they saw the creatures from the alternate plane, they immediately brandished their scythe-like arms and attacked the cultivators nearby. Stand where you are and don't move. Whoever dares to move or make a sound will be killed without mercy. Pan Xing's voice came again. His voice seemed to have an invisible magic that made all the red in the Mantis men's eyes recede immediately. However, there were hundreds of Mantis men. It was unknown if they were possessed by the killing. Although the red in their eyes had receded and they had clearly regained their consciousness, they still rushed toward the powerhouses from the other planes. Buzz! A huge pressure descended quietly, enveloping the peak of Mount Pan. Everyone on the peak suddenly felt an irresistible force pressing down on their bodies. Forget about moving, they could not even breathe. Swoosh! Under the horrified gazes of the tens of millions of martial artists on the peak of Mount Pan, there was a flash of brilliance in the sky. A streak of purple thunder tens of thousands of meters long came from the 9th heaven, enveloping all the martial artists in the Mantis Men army in an instant. Boom! A blinding white light shone. A deafening noise pierced the eardrums. Then, these 100,000 Mantis men all evaporated. Not even a hair was left. Hiss! The tens of millions of people in the field were deathly silent, apart from the sound of cold air being sucked in. Countless low-level martial artists were so frightened that their legs turned to jelly and they collapsed to the ground, trembling. Many powerhouses had seen and been blasted by the divine thunder. However, it was basically a heavenly phenomenon that bestowed power. This was the first time everyone had seen the immortal realm annihilate a martial artist. That kind of earth-shattering aura, that irresistible aura, deeply shocked everyone. Boss, you are right. He can indeed kill me in a second. I feel that this divine thunder is irresistible. If it hits me, I will also turn into slag. Xiao He shrank back and looked around in horror. He secretly transmitted his voice to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's face was cold. Although he was shocked, his body instinctively emitted a sense of arrogance, as if he wanted to fight Pan Xing. When my cold world is completed, This young master will not hesitate to fight with you. This belief automatically appeared in Yi Qinghan's mind. Then he was shocked. He quickly restrained his aura and lowered his head. At this moment, his strength was far inferior to Pan Xing's. If Pan Xing saw through him, he would be damned. Half a day later, no more planes teleported up. The number of martial artists in the square had reached more than 100 million. Yi Qinghan also saw martial artists from the Demon Plane and the Golden Dragon Plane. However, there were not many of them. Their faces were bitter and dejected. Obviously, they had been forced to surrender. If you have enough points, move forward 10,000 meters from the planes that want to withdraw from the battle. Legion Commander, throw your points badge into the stone pit in front of you and choose the plane you want to attack from the stone tablet. After a long time, Pan Xing's voice came again. All the planes that had withdrawn from the battle immediately moved forward 10,000 meters. Squeak! On the ground in front of each legion, a huge stone tablet automatically appeared. Next to it was a stone pillar. The stone pillar was hollow, and there was a big black hole in it. Yi Qinghan walked forward. With a wave of his hand, he threw all the badges he had collected from his spatial ring into the stone pit. Then he turned to look at the stone tablet. There was a map carved on the stone tablet. There were many bright dots on the map, and the names of the planes were marked on it. On the east side of the map, Yi Qinghan saw the Divine World Plane. He also saw the Demon Plane and the Golden Dragon Plane beside it. After pondering for a while, Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and pointed at the Demon Plane. The stone tablet immediately descended to the ground. The stone pillar beside it also disappeared. Finally, the ground became flat again. All the planes that won have the right to attack and choose the defeated planes. The validity period will be after the next planar war. This is the map of your plane and the map of the planar battlefield you want to attack. During the validity period, you can use the teleportation formation in the planar battlefield to teleport to the plane you want to attack. All right, all of you can go back. Just as Pan Xing finished speaking, 2 rays of white light shot down from the sky. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and grabbed it. Indeed, it was 2 maps. Before they could attack, a ray of white light enveloped all the Divine World Army. The Divine World Army disappeared from the peak of Mount Pan. Lava Valley. Yi Qinghan looked around and found that they had arrived at the teleportation formation valley of the Divine World Planar Battlefield. He let out a long breath and waved his hand. He laughed and said, "Let's go. Everyone take turns to enter the teleportation formation. We are going home." Chapter 1365. The Nephis Abyss was still filled with boiling lava, black fog, and all kinds of restrictions were shining with strange lights. All the restrictions in the Nephis Abyss had been broken. Yao Ji led a group of restriction geniuses to guard the Nephis Abyss day and night. At the same time, there was a simple and unadorned palace floating in the Nephis Abyss. Yi Feihu led all the 9th grade experts in the Divine Realm to guard the Nephis Abyss. Although everyone was very confident in Yi Qinghan's strength, all the experts in the Divine Realm were gathered here to guard the Nephis Abyss as a precaution and Yi Qinghan's instructions before he left. If they were defeated and the experts from other planes attacked immediately, the experts from the Divine Realm could still hold on for a while by controlling the restrictions in the Nephis Abyss. The Beast God Palace was huge, even bigger than the War Imperial Palace. The Auxiliary Supreme Spiritual Treasure was no joke. Yi Feihu led the Beast God, the Water God, the Fire God, the 9th grade experts, and Jida to a main hall. All of them sat cross-legged, cultivating, drinking tea, and chatting. Only 90 years had passed, and the final battle of the planar wars had just begun. Most importantly, if there were experts from other planes attacking, they would have to come through the teleportation formation. No one was nervous. "Mother, when will father and uncle return?" In another side hall, Yi Qinghan's women were sitting. Li Shui, or Monster Devourer, and Yao Yao were all sitting there. 90 years had passed, and the final battle had begun. They were no longer in the mood to cultivate. They all sat together, looking very calm and chatting. But when Yao Yao asked, everyone's gaze turned to her subconsciously. Soon, A trace of worry flashed in the depths of Li Shui's eyes. She revealed a slightly forced smile on her face and gently stroked Yao Yao's beautiful hair. Then, she turned her head to look at Fireworks, who was beside her, and a bitter smile appeared on their faces. That's right. Yi Qinghan and Xiao He were very strong. If the two of them joined forces, they could easily kill one or two ninth-grade supreme martial artists. Moreover, the Immortal Realm did not seek to be the champion this time, only to win. Presumably, with Yi Qinghan and Xiao He's abilities, it should not be too difficult. But as Yi Qinghan and Xiao He's women, they all saw something wrong in Yi Qinghan and Xiao He's arrangements. The most important thing was the Nifa's Abyss, which was why Yi Qinghan had spent so much time and effort to set it up. It gave him the feeling that he was making arrangements for his funeral. With Yao Ji's powerful restriction mastery, their chances of winning would definitely increase if they brought her to the planar battlefield. However, Yi Qinghan insisted on keeping her in the Nifa's Abyss. Sister Temptress, I will definitely come back, right? Yi Qingyu asked Yao Ji in a low voice. Even someone as pure as her could feel that there was something wrong with Yi Qinghan's mood before he left. There was always a hint of guilt and reluctance in his eyes as he looked at everyone. It seemed as if he was bidding farewell. He will definitely come back. You have to believe in Lil Han. He is a man who can create miracles. He has gone through mountains of blades and seas of fire, and this planar battlefield is definitely not the end of his campaign. Yao Ji's gaze was deep and distant. She looked at the Nifa's Abyss through the transparent walls of the Beast God Palace, but there was a hint of bitterness at the corner of her mouth. Before Yi Qinghan left, he swept a glance at her. There was actually a hint of entrusting in his eyes, and she could feel it the most. Although she did not understand why Yi Qinghan was so unconfident about this planar war and felt that he would definitely die, she still respected his opinion. She kept an eye on the Nifa's Abyss day and night, and if anything went wrong, she would immediately activate the restrictions to repel the enemy. If the Immortal Realm perished, she would follow Yi Qinghan's arrangements and take all the members of the Yi family on the Soul Emperor Pavilion and fly far away. Xiao He, you have to come back. Shui doesn't want you to evolve or transform. I only want you to stay with me forever. You have to come back. Li Shui's limpid eyes occasionally looked in the direction of the teleportation formation in the distance. Her heart was filled with frustration and urgency. Originally, she had fully supported Xiao He's decision to go to the planar battlefield. This was because if Xiao He wanted to evolve, he would need a large amount of energy. That much energy could only be obtained by going to the planar war. Otherwise, it would not be enough even if he devoured everyone in the Immortal Realm. However, at this moment, Li Shui would rather Xiao He not evolve. It was fine as long as he could stay with her forever. The enchantress suddenly raised her eyebrows. Her limpid eyes shot out two rays of light as she looked in the direction of the teleportation formation. She immediately stood up with a solemn look on her face. Everyone was alarmed by the enchantress's serious expression and tensed up. In another hall, all the ninth-grade experts opened their eyes abruptly and locked their gazes in the direction of the teleportation formation. Buzz! At the top of the passageway to the Nifa's Abyss, a huge teleportation formation suddenly trembled and began to emit colorful rays of light. Swish! Everyone, stay alert and prepare for battle. Countless figures instantly flew out of the Beast God Palace. The enchantress waved her hands and shot out rays of divine power. In an instant, all the restrictions in the Nifa's Abyss lit up, and an incomparably terrifying aura enveloped the entire Nifa's Abyss. 100 restriction geniuses immediately stood in the designated positions according to the enchantress's arrangement and controlled a portion of the restrictions. All the ninth-grade experts lined up in a row. Divine power revolved around them, and the power of space circulated. Their faces were solemn, but there was a hint of hope in the depths of their eyes. Buzz! The brilliance continued to shine. The planar battlefield was very far from the Immortal Realm. Every teleportation required some time. Finally, the brilliance stopped shining. Countless figures appeared in the huge teleportation formation. There were at least 10,000 of them. It's our people. It's the beast god. It's the Yi family army. Our people are back. Eh? Why are they all riding on a monster? When Yi Feihu and the others saw the faces of the 10,000 people clearly, all of them were ecstatic. Some of them even trembled with excitement. Although the beast god was leading the troops, the enchantress did not dare to remove the restriction. Instead, she immediately asked Yi Feihu to send a voice transmission. Feihu, remove the restriction. We've won. These are the mounts that the emperor ordered the Yi family army to capture. The beast god sent a voice transmission with a smile. He led the 10,000 people and stood at the side. They did not dare to move recklessly while the restriction was still in place. The teleportation formation next to them lit up again. The next teleportation was about to begin. When the teleportation formation teleported Zhu Yi and the 10,000 people back, the enchantress's bewitching face finally revealed a smile that could move the hearts of all the men in the world. She waved her hands, and divine power shot out as she began to remove the restriction. Once the restriction was removed, everyone immediately flew towards the teleportation formation. Yi Feihu and the others surrounded the beast god and questioned him. Yao Ji and the other girls surrounded Zhu Yi, all of them nervously and excitedly chattering nonstop. The emperor is holding the line at the back. This time, our immortal realm achieved a complete victory. If it wasn't for the emperor not wanting to take first place, he would have taken first place. What? Don't worry, little sister Qingyu. The emperor is fine. He is not injured at all. Don't worry. Just wait. When the army is done teleporting, the emperor will be teleported back. Zhu Yi looked at the group of chattering women and smiled happily as she explained to them. Zhu Yi could understand how they felt. Wasn't she the same back then? Queen Zhu Yi, Xiaohe, how is he? Li Shui saw that Zhu Yi was chatting happily with the crowd, but did not mention Xiaohe's situation. She immediately became anxious and asked nervously while biting her pale lips. Lord Xiaohe? Zhu Yi's beautiful eyes turned, and she smiled mysteriously. She shook her head and said, You will know about Lord Xiaohe later. Chapter 1366. Your Majesty, what's wrong with my father? Is my father okay? Zhu Yi's act of keeping them in suspense had frightened Li Shui and the demon-devourer demon. Both of their faces instantly turned snow-white. Yu Qingqing and the others' faces also turned ugly. Yao Yao grabbed Zhu Yi's arm with her lotus-like hands and asked urgently, Lord Xiaohe is fine. Don't worry, Miss Yao Yao. As for the specific situation, Lord Xiaohe said to wait for him to be transmitted. Zhu Yi explained helplessly. Xiaohe wanted to give Li Shui and the Demon Eater a surprise. Wasn't this making things difficult for her? As long as he's fine, Li Shui heaved a sigh of relief and turned to look at the Demon Eater. Their eyes suddenly lit up. Xiaohe liked to play around. If he was fine and was the same as before, he wouldn't be so mysterious. Then he must be different from before. Since he was fine, there was only one explanation. He had evolved and probably transformed. Yu Qingqing and the others were also smart women. They figured out the key of the matter and looked at Zhu Yi with a smile. Zhu Yi could only nod with a wry smile and said, It's a good thing. I promised Lord Xiaohe. Let's wait for a while. Wow! The Demon Eater immediately shouted with joy. His eyes were as lively as Xiaohe's and were full of joy. He stared at the transmission array without blinking. The transmission array lit up again and again, sending over groups of smiling Yi family soldiers. After each transmission, Yi Feihu and the others were shocked. When the 90th transmission array lit up, they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. The Emperor, was he going to participate in the Plains War? Why did he bring 1 million warriors out, but now 900,000 people were transmitted back unscathed? And he brought back nearly 2 million alien plane monster soul slaves. Were they going to war? Were they sure they weren't going sightseeing? Finally, the 93rd transmission array didn't have 10,000 people. There were only a few hundred people, except for the 3 level 9 experts of the Water God clan who had lost their fathers. The rest were all smiling. The green-robed man in the center was surrounded by the crowd like stars surrounding the moon. His body was frail and frail, but his face was filled with a gentle smile. His gaze swept across Yu Qingcheng and the others, and his eyes were filled with deep affection and love. Xiaohei, father, Li Shui'er, Lord Devour, and Yao Rao's gazes were fixed on a handsome man beside Yi Qinghan. His body was turned sideways, his head was slightly lowered, and one of his hands was stroking his hair. The man was dressed in white, elegant and otherworldly. His nose, eyes, mouth, limbs, and body were all exactly the same as a real person. The craftiness in those quick-witted eyes made Li Shui'er feel as if she had seen Blackie's first human transformation. Father has finally transformed. There was a sweet smile on Yao Yao's absolutely beautiful face that could be compared to fireworks. Ever since she was born, she especially envied her father's embrace. Even though she had grown up now, she had always longed for her father's embrace. Even though she was a proud daughter of the heavens and was doted on by countless people, and she was also extremely talented, she had always felt inferior. But in fact, she had always felt inferior because the little black man was neither a human nor a ghost, which made her feel inferior. At this moment, she finally did not feel inferior anymore. She could also have her father's warm embrace. "Welcome, great emperor! Welcome, Lord Xiaohei!" Yi Feihu and the others all knelt on one knee. They already knew about the dimensional battlefield from the beast god's words. At this moment, all of them were sincerely bowing to Yi Qinghan and to Xiaohei, thanking them for their contributions to the god realm, the hardships, and the blood and sweat they had put in. "Rise!" Yi Qinghan smiled and waved his hand. Then his expression turned solemn, and he said solemnly, "In this dimensional war, Xiaohei evolved once again, and his strength isn't below mine. He contributed greatly in this war. If it wasn't for Xiaohei, the God Realm's army would have been completely annihilated. As the great emperor of the God Realm, I bestow the title of Great Emperor upon Xiaohei. Everyone, please respect him as you respect me." "Greetings, Great Emperor Xiaohei." No one in the Yi family army doubted Yi Qinghan's words, and no one hesitated. More than 900,000 Yi family army soldiers immediately knelt on one knee and shouted in unison, "Greetings, Great Emperor Xiaohei." Yi Feihu and the others had no objections, and they all knelt down. Xiaohei devoured the demon sovereign and saved the God Realm. At that time, he had the qualifications and strength to be conferred the title of Great Emperor. Now that his strength had improved once again, he was actually comparable to Yi Qinghan. How could anyone dare to object? Cough, cough. Get up, all of you. Benefits are nothing to me. I originally didn't want this title of Great Emperor, but since you all are so kind, it would be impolite for me to refuse. Don't worry, with this Great Emperor here, the dimensional war will definitely be won. The God Realm will never have a single creature from the other planes step into it. This Great Emperor and boss will also lead you to conquer the other planes and raise the prestige of the God Realm. Xiaohei ran his fingers through his hair. His gaze was cold, and his expression was solemn and dignified as he swept his gaze over everyone. He spoke with assurance, and his body released a faint aura that made it difficult for people to breathe. If people didn't know him, they would really think that he was a very strict and serious Paragon powerhouse. Great Emperor is mighty. Great Emperor Xiaohei is mighty. God Realm is mighty. Pangaea is mighty. God Realm is mighty. Pangaea is mighty. Forever. Millions of Yi family soldiers knelt down again and shouted in unison. Countless people's eyes lit up with a glimmer of light. Xiaohei and Yi Qinghan's formidable strength made everyone see hope, and they also found relief. The God Realm finally didn't have to fear any other planes, and they could finally obtain their hard-won peace. Xiaohei nodded arrogantly, and with a wave of his hands, he spoke as if he was serious. "Must be mighty, must be eternal." The demon devourer was confused. It looked at the mighty and domineering Xiaohei as if it didn't recognize him. Li Shui'er, on the other hand, giggled. Her body trembled as she laughed, but her eyes were filled with pride and love. Great ancestor, I'll leave the matters here to you. Yi Qinghan also held back his laughter and said to the beast god calmly. He circulated the power of cold, pulled Xiao He, who was about to continue his speech, and flew forward. His gaze swept across the tearful faces, and he grinned. Let's go, we'll talk when we get home. Yes, let's go home. All the women nodded solemnly, surrounded Yi Qinghan in the center, and flew out. Xiao He, however, still had a stern expression. He flew in front of Li Shui, and the demon devourer nodded majestically and said calmly, Let's go. We'll talk when we get home. Yes, your servant welcomes the great emperor back to the residence. Li Shui smiled sweetly and bowed. Then she obediently followed Little Black, who was full of farts, and flew forward. The demon devourer looked at Xiao He with admiration and a little unfamiliarity. Xiao He finally evolved again and took human form. Although he had become extremely domineering, she felt different from the originally mischievous and amiable Xiao He, which made her a little uncomfortable. Who knew that just as they flew for 10,000 miles, Li Shui suddenly sped up and pulled Xiao He's ear. The domineering Xiao He immediately withered, and his expression changed immediately. His face was filled with a flattering smile, and like a slave, he lowered his eyebrows, bent his body, and continuously begged for mercy in a low voice. It hurts. My great aunt, gentler, I won't pretend anymore. I was wrong, all right? There are so many people here. Give this great emperor some face, and you can do whatever you want when you get back. Chapter 1367. Boss, you have to help me. In the Seal God Valley, Yi Qinghan was sitting in the main hall, drinking tea and chatting with Jida. Xiao He suddenly walked in with a sullen face. He picked up the tea on the table with a helpless expression and took a sip before sighing. What's wrong? Yi Qinghan turned around with a smile. Jida also smiled casually. They were all old acquaintances. Although Xiao He was a titled Great Emperor now, he was still the same mischievous Xiao He when he treated acquaintances. Boss, Xiao He glanced at Jida and furrowed his brows. He said bashfully, Shui forbade me to take a concubine. I didn't even ask. I just wanted to get some information, and she beat me up. She punished me to kneel on the floor for an entire night. Look at me. I'm a great emperor. If this matter were to spread, would I still have the face to go out and meet people? Yi Qinghan and Jida looked at each other. Their expressions became serious, and their gazes were deep and distant. The two of them looked up at the ceiling at the same time, as though there were rare treasures and beautiful women there. Xiao He glanced at the two of them and frowned. He curled his lips and said, Laugh if you want to. Ha ha ha. Yi Qinghan and Jida burst into laughter at the same time. They laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. Jida laughed so hard that tears came out. After a long time, he held back his laughter and said, Xiao He, come. Let me teach you a few moves. Bao Shui, I will be obedient to you. In the divine world, experts have always been admired by women. As long as Miss Shui agrees, I will bring you out to find beauties. You can enjoy beauties of all races. What do you think? Really? Hee, this is good. Xiao He was like a cat that had seen a fish. His eyes lit up, and he took a step to sit next to Kid. The two of them had their arms around each other's shoulders. They didn't have the temperament of a powerhouse. Kid was a famous playboy in the god world. He used to have 3,000 beauties, but later, he ran away with Lord Devour. Half of his harem was gone, leaving only around 10 women who were loyal to him. Saintly Sky took them to the secret book. While traveling with Lord Yi Qinghan, Devour didn't forget to seduce beautiful women. When he returned to the god domain, he had dozens of wives. Now, he had become the Misty Monarch and Yi Qinghan's sworn brother. Over the years, his harem had expanded to 7,000 to 8,000 people. Yi Qinghan felt angry and funny at the same time. He looked at the two who were whispering to each other and said with a smile, I still have the same words. As long as Shui agrees, I don't mind. But if Shui doesn't agree, you will go out and make Shui and Yao Yao cry to me. Be careful. I will tie you two up and give you to to torture." Jita laughed mischievously. His face was full of pride as he said, "Little Han, you underestimate your big brother Jita. Jita have been a playboy for millions of years. When have you ever seen my women dissatisfied? When did my harem make trouble? Which one of them wasn't obedient and willing? If Shui doesn't agree, I won't take Xiaohei out to make trouble. Don't worry." Xiaohei's eyes were bright as he gave Kid a thumbs up. "Yeah, big brother Kid, you're awesome. Let's go. It's not good to talk here. We should go to the Flame Dragon Holy City and find a hidden place to talk. Big brother, don't worry. I won't mess around. Let's go, big brother Kid." Yi Qinghan couldn't help but laugh as he watched the two of them walk out with their arms around each other's shoulders. He couldn't say much about this matter. He was a romantic person and had many wives. Xiaohei had been with him for so many years and had suffered so much. Now that the immortal realm had finally settled down, whatever Xiaohei wanted, Yi Qinghan would do his best to get it for him if he could. After the two of them left, the hall became empty and quiet. Yi Qinghan drank tea as he pondered. It had been almost a year since he returned to the immortal realm. The news of the immortal realm's army's great victory in the dimensional battlefield had spread throughout the immortal realm. In particular, Yi Qinghan and Xiaohei had bravely charged into Devil Mountain and fought fiercely in the Golden Dragon Plain. In the end, Xiaohei had displayed his invincible might and single-handedly annihilated hundreds of rank 9 powerhouses from a powerful dimensional legion. The news had spread throughout the immortal realm through the Yi family army. Immediately, the immortal realm was in an uproar. Martial artists in every city gathered in the public square and began to celebrate. Yi Qinghan and Xiaohei's names resounded in the immortal realm for 3 days and 3 nights. Yi Qinghan and Xiaohei's prestige had also reached an all-time high, surpassing the height of the 10 ancient gods. The immortal realm could finally be at ease. With the two of them around, they could easily win the dimensional war. They no longer had to worry about losing and being attacked by other dimensions. Of course, there were countless families who were originally dissatisfied with Yi Qinghan and Xiaohei. They even secretly planned to take revenge, such as the scattered descendants of the Li family. They all withdrew their plans to take revenge on Yi Qinghan, Xiaohei, and the Yi family. They could even kill rank 9 supreme martial artists in seconds. So what if they worked hard and cultivated to rank 9 supreme martial artists? After the Dimensional War, the Order of the Immortal Realm had reached its best period in history. The Yi family army had also become the most glorious army in the Immortal Realm. Countless martial artists were proud to join the Yi family army. However, the fiery dragon sacred city lord, Lei Jun, strictly controlled the size of the Yi family army. He set a permanent limit of 1 million people. However, the standard of strength was raised. Without a rank 6 or rank 7, who would dare to apply to join the Yi family army? Everything in the immortal realm was stable. There was no need for Yi Qinghan to worry about anything. There were countless people taking care of things. Lei Jun was in charge of the fiery dragon sacred city. The various continents were in charge of the various rulers. The Yi family was under the management of Knight Emperor Yi Tianlong and Yu Qing. The hearts of the people in the immortal realm were extremely united. Everyone worked hard to improve and cultivate. Everything was developing according to Yi Qinghan's plan. In this dimensional war, Yi Qinghan had countless doubts. For example, the purple-robed lady's voice transmission. For example, why Pan Xing did not kill him. For example, the identity of the hemp-robed old man. For example, why Xiaohei's strength could evolve to such a terrifying level. For example, was his cold realm a real world? Was it an existence similar to Pangaea? There were also countless things that Yi Qinghan could not figure out. However, Yi Qinghan decided not to think about it. The most important thing was that he was alive. The immortal realm had won. Therefore, after Yi Qinghan returned, he passed down the order to rest and reorganize for 100 years. After 100 years, he would attack the demonic plane. He needed to rest for 100 years to let his mind completely relax. He needed to let his tense nerves relax. He needed to let go of the heavy pressure that was hovering over his mind. Yi Qinghan did not care about the cold realm anymore. He only occasionally swept his divine sense. He did not think about the dimensional war anymore. He just wanted to have a good rest. Holding a cup of tea, he sat in the main hall for the whole afternoon. His women were busy with their own things. No one came to disturb him. Yi Qinghan felt like he had stolen half a day of leisure from his life. After 100 years, I will bring people to sweep the entire demonic plane. The demonic aura of the demonic creatures is too terrifying. Staying near the immortal realm will be a disaster sooner or later. Moreover, it seems that Xiaohe has not reached the end of his evolution. He needs a huge amount of energy. Yi Qinghan stood up and made up his mind. Since Pan Xing did not kill him and Xiaohe in the dimensional war, it should not alarm him even if Xiaohe went to destroy the demonic plane. In the past, the immortal realm was too powerful. It triggered Pan Xing's killing intent. If he did not expand, it would not be too much to rule 1 or 2 planes at most, right? The most important reason why he made up his mind to destroy the demonic plane was that he had a faint feeling that he would have to fight against Pan Xing sooner or later. Therefore, he needed stronger strength. If Xiaohe could evolve again, his strength would also improve. Perhaps he would really have the strength to fight against Pan Xing. Through the main hall, Yi Qinghan looked at the sky of the sealed God Valley. He seemed to see the high and mighty Pan Mountain. He murmured, "Pan Xing, I do not want to be your enemy. I just want to live a leisurely and contented life. I hope you do not force me. Otherwise, you will regret it sooner or later." Chapter 1368. Time flew by. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan's days were extremely relaxed. He didn't think about anything and spent his days touring with his wives. From time to time, he would teleport to the material planes of the immortal world to enjoy the scenery of the foreign lands. After returning to the divine realm, he would occasionally go to the holy city to give pointers to the younger generation. He would often gather with Jida and the others to drink, chat, and play chess. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was sitting alone on the rooftop of the Fire Dragon City Lord residence. He was leisurely drinking tea, squinting his eyes, and basking in the sun. He was extremely satisfied. Having just returned from a plane with particularly beautiful scenery, the women were all contented and went back to busy themselves with their own matters. Yi Qinghan also had half a day of leisure in his life. He quietly began to think about some problems. 10 years. After living a leisurely life for 10 years, Yi Qinghan's heart was satisfied. It was time to plan for the future. Pan Xing's bone-piercing murderous aura appeared in his mind again. Although Pan Xing did not attack him in the last plane war, he felt that Pan Xing would find out sooner or later. However, he felt that sooner or later, he would be discovered by Pan Xing and they would face each other. Therefore, after resting for 10 years, Yi Qinghan decided to continue cultivating and think of all ways to increase his strength. Sitting under the grape trellis, he squinted his eyes and thought for a long time. Yi Qinghan decided to take 3 steps. First, let Xiaohe continue to devour experts. After 100 years, he would immediately go to the demonic plane and devour all the creatures there, completely exterminating the demon race. This way, not only could he increase Xiaohe's strength, but he could also completely eliminate this hidden danger in the divine realm. Xiaohe's current strength was already very heaven-defying. Even if he were to face him, it would be hard to predict the outcome. If he could evolve again, with his help, even if he were to face Pan Xing, the outcome would be uncertain. Second, continue to comprehend the nomological laws. His realm of nomological laws was currently lower 9th grade. There was still a lot of room for improvement. Although the nomological laws might not increase his strength by much, what if the quantitative change could lead to a qualitative change? Thirdly, and this was the most important point, he had to think of all possible ways to make the cold realm evolve. Every time the cold realm evolved, his strength would soar. If he could completely transform it, Yi Qinghan believed that he might be able to fight against Pan Xing. There are still 90 years left until the demonic plane. With his and Xiaohe's strength, they should be able to conquer it easily. The evolution of the cold realm was something that had to be slowly explored and could not be rushed. I'd better try to comprehend laws of nature first. Yi Qinghan had no idea how to cultivate above rank 9, and he had never asked anyone about it. Now that he thought about cultivating, he couldn't figure out how to do it. After thinking for a moment, Yi Qinghan spread out his divine sense. Originally, he wanted to look for the beast god who had the highest mastery of the laws and ask him about it. However, he discovered that the beast god was not in the god realm. He had probably gone to the beast god plane. He scanned the star sea with his divine sense and found that Zhu Yi was not on the supreme island either. His divine sense locked onto the powerhouses of the fire god plane. After asking around, he discovered that Zhu Yi had gone to the fire god's secret realm. It was said that the centennial ancestral worship ceremony of the 10 ancient clans was about to begin, and Zhu Yi had gone back to host it. After his divine sense went around the divine realm, Yi Qinghan realized that it was very difficult to find someone to ask about it. Jida was familiar, but his strength was too low. Yanran was also a rank 9, but she was also lower rank 9. In the end, he thought of someone and smiled. He used the power of cold and teleported directly to the north. The attribute of the power of cold was above all other forces, so the distance that Yi Qinghan teleported was quite terrifying. In just 2 or 3 teleportations, Yi Qinghan arrived at the extreme north of the divine realm. This is the island of ice and snow. I've been to almost all the places in the divine realm, but this is my first time here. The beast god and Zhu Yi were not here. Gong Tian was dead, and the powerhouses of the water god clan were all chased back to the water mystery realm by Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan wanted to ask about the cultivation of laws above rank 9, he could only look for the Ice Queen, who had reached the peak of rank 9. Swish! Yi Qinghan's sudden teleportation above the island of ice and snow alarmed countless patrolling guards of the island. A group of beautiful women in white robes with exquisite facial features and voluptuous figures flew over at high speed. Their faces were as cold as frost, and they stared at Yi Qinghan with vigilance. The Ice Queen was not allowed to go out of the island of ice and snow, so no one knew Yi Qinghan. Although Yi Qinghan was imposing, these 7 or 8 women with the strength of 7th-grade war gods were not afraid. The leader of the group pointed a silver spear at Yi Qinghan and shouted coldly, "Who dares to trespass on the island of ice and snow? Leave immediately, or we won't be polite. Ask your queen to come out and see me. My name is Yi Qinghan." Of course, Yi Qinghan would not be so bored as to bicker with these guards. He said calmly and stood proudly with his hands clasped behind his back, ignoring the aura and killing intent that were locked on him. "Humph! Do you think you can see our queen whenever you want?" The leader of the guards shouted coldly with a hint of arrogance in her eyes. The island master of Ice and Snow Island is the right-hand man of Emperor Han Yi. How can a nobody like you see her? Although you are also a level 9 expert, so what? She saw that Yi Qinghan still didn't leave. Divine power surrounded her body, and she shouted coldly, "Why are you still not leaving? Do you want me to capture you and make you my slave? Leave, leave. Our island master is busy and won't see any guests. I don't care if you are called Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan. Why does this name sound so familiar?" Yi Qinghan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was a little puzzled. He had been here for so long and was still releasing his aura. Why didn't the Ice Queen come out? What the hell was she doing? He didn't bother about the guards. He swept with his divine sense, but didn't find any signs of the Ice Queen. Yi Qinghan locked onto the centermost palace. He swept with his divine sense, but still didn't find anything. This time, Yi Qinghan was a little shocked. He could sense the faint aura of the Ice Queen, but he couldn't find her. He immediately circulated his divine sense to the fullest and carefully explored the palace. With a serious search, he easily found her. There was a small hall in the palace with a strong seal. The aura of the Ice Queen spread out from within. He didn't think his strong divine sense piercing into the seal. He easily locked onto the Ice Queen, but the moment he sensed the Ice Queen's body, Yi Qinghan's mind shook. His body shook too, and he nearly fell from the sky. He could use his divine sense to scan. There was a small, ancient altar in the hall. At this moment, the altar was giving off a seven-colored light. There was a beautiful girl sitting cross-legged in the middle. Her expression was great. Her entire body was twitching. That wasn't important. The important thing was this person was naked and didn't wear anything. Her skin was as red as a flower, and she was so beautiful that it made one drunk. Coincidentally, when Yi Qinghan's divine sense entered, she had just woken up. Her beautiful eyes were half opened. When Yi Qinghan retracted his divine sense, Yi Qinghan could see that the Ice Queen noticed his divine sense. She was like a frightened rabbit as she jumped up. She grabbed the robe beside the altar and put it on in a fluster. Her voluptuous breasts and round buttocks swayed in the air, dazzlingly beautiful. Yi Qinghan's body shook. His eyes were filled with awkwardness and panic. He had an urge to turn around and flee. But at that moment, the guard leader suddenly shouted, "Yi Qinghan? Yi Qinghan! You are Emperor Han Yi? I died 10,000 times and actually didn't know that the emperor had arrived. Man! Immediately inform His Majesty to gather all the experts on the island to welcome the emperor." Chapter 1369. Towards Ice Queen, Yi Qinghan had always respected her even if he was several times stronger than her. However, in Yi Qinghan's heart, the Ice Queen was a senior worthy of respect, or rather an elder, just like Lord Devour. The first time he met the Ice Queen, Yi Qinghan was only a fake rank 9. At that time, the Ice Queen was one of the strongest people in the god world. Plus, she was cold and serious. This was why the impression that Ice Queen gave Yi Qinghan was that she was an expert, an elder that people respected. Although the Ice Queen was suffocatingly beautiful, she had a more noble and elegant aura than Zhu Yi. Although Yi Qinghan had once fantasized that the women of the Ice Snow tribe, who cultivated the Ice Snow secret art, would feel cold all over. Would it be special to touch them? When doing that thing, the fusion of ice and fire, would it be so stimulating and pleasurable? But Yi Qinghan really didn't have any bad thoughts about the Ice Queen. Even when Zhu Yi said that Ice Queen had feelings for him, he just laughed it off and didn't think too much about it. When the evil demon descended into the god world, Ice Queen gathered the god world grade 9 experts to fight against the evil demon. From that moment on, Yi Qinghan felt a trace of respect for this woman who was as cold as ice and didn't say a single word for a long time. He subconsciously felt that if he fantasized about the Ice Queen, that would be an insult to her. The monarch loved money, but he got in the right way. Similarly, Yi Qinghan believed that even if a man was lustful, he had to have his own principles. There was nothing wrong with men being dissolute, especially in this world where only the strong were respected. As long as you have the ability, it doesn't matter how many wives you marry, as long as the other party is willing. It's even better if both parties are in love with each other. Therefore, Yi Qinghan did not dislike Kid's harem of a few thousand. If Xiao He wanted to pick up girls, Yi Qinghan would also support him. Of course, that was under the premise that Shui Heir didn't make a fuss. Yi Qinghan never forced a woman. He would pursue her until both parties had feelings for each other. In fact, he had so many wives, and many of them were chasing after him. Of course, forcing himself on Zhu Yi back then didn't count. That was because he was forced by circumstances, so, at this moment, Yi Qinghan unintentionally reached out with his spiritual sense. He actually saw Ice Queen's entire body, and she even knew about it. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt like he was having an affair with his lover for the first time, only to be caught in bed by his wife. Incomparable panic, incomparable embarrassment, and a sense of shame. At this time, the captain of the guard shouted and knelt on the ground in fear, begging for forgiveness and kowtowing. Yi Qinghan originally wanted to teleport away, but he found it difficult to do so. Then, the ice and snow island was thrown into chaos. Countless warriors rushed out of their rooms, looking at Yi Qinghan with fanaticism and kowtowing to him. In the end, when the Ice Queen teleported out with a cold expression and lowered her head to greet him, Yi Qinghan couldn't leave even if he wanted to. Luckily, Yi Qinghan's skin was thicker. Although he panicked, he was able to act calm. He raised his hand and said calmly, "Cough, stand up. Those who don't know can't be blamed. I came here today to discuss something with the Queen, Cough. Since the Queen has something, then let's talk in the future." Ice Queen was actually acting calm. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Yi Qinghan. After listening to Yi Qinghan's words, 2 blushes quietly appeared on his face, but they immediately disappeared. His body trembled slightly, and he raised his head to glance at Yi Qinghan. Then he immediately lowered his head and said, "No, it's fine. Great Emperor, come in and talk." Yi Qinghan touched his nose subconsciously as he looked at the Ice Queen flying into the palace. He gritted his teeth and flew in as well. Everyone in the Ice and Snow Island looked at the Ice Queen in worship, raising their heads proudly. Look, how amazing was our queen? Even if the top person in the god world, Emperor Hanye, personally came to visit, she was still so arrogant, making the emperor follow behind her. In truth, the Ice Queen was trembling as she walked. Her mind was totally blank, so of course she wouldn't care about such etiquette. Only when she sat on her own ice throne and saw Yi Qinghan sitting below her, rubbing his nose in embarrassment, did she come back to her senses. She stood up in a panic and said in embarrassment, "Emperor, please take a seat." Yi Qinghan felt dizzy and was thinking about how to avoid the awkwardness. He waved his hands politely. "Ah, ha, it is okay, it is okay. Sit. Your Majesty, you aren't an outsider, so there is no need to be so polite." The moment he said this, Yi Qinghan was stunned. Not an outsider. Along with how he saw the Ice Queen's body just now, this sentence had a lot of meaning. As expected, Yi Qinghan snuck a glance and noticed that the Ice Queen's face was red. Even her neck and earlobes were red. Seeing that the Ice Queen had misunderstood, Yi Qinghan didn't know what to do. He hurriedly stood up and explained, "Cough, I didn't mean that. What I meant was that we are so familiar with each other." No, I meant that we are all old friends. That isn't right." Yi Qinghan realized that it was getting worse and worse. The Ice Queen's body was getting redder and redder. Her face was tilted to the side, and she didn't dare to look at him. He was so anxious that his head was covered in sweat. The more anxious he was, the more his mind was in a mess. He didn't know what to do. "Pucci." The Ice Queen saw how Yi Qinghan was sighing and finally couldn't help but smile. She looked over flirtatiously and smiled. "Okay, Emperor, I know what you mean. I don't blame you. One who doesn't know can't be blamed. If outsiders see you like this, what will happen?" The moment Yi Qinghan heard this, he felt much more at ease. He nodded his head like a chick pecking rice and grinned. "Oh, that's good. That's good. I didn't mean to disrespect the Queen at all. I was indeed too rash. The moment the 2 of them said this, they realized that it wasn't right. Ice Queen felt that her words were a little flirtatious. Yi Qinghan realized that he said something wrong. Why did he mention that for no reason? Wasn't it just awkward? Both of them shut their mouths in embarrassment and did not dare to look at each other. As a result, the atmosphere became even more awkward. However, there was a hint of ambiguity and gentleness. The originally cold and frosty palace became filled with the feeling of spring. The more Yi Qinghan sat, the more restless he became. Given the current situation, he would rather fight against 10 ninth-grade sovereign realm experts from another plane than to sit here. After sitting for a while, Yi Qinghan couldn't take it anymore. Right as he was about to stand up and find an excuse to leave, Ice Queen turned her head around. Thus, the 2 of them opened their mouths at the same time. The 2 of them used a lot of courage, but in the end, the 2 of them shrunk back. The 2 of them didn't dare to open their mouths and waited for one another to speak. Thus, the 2 of them kept silent, and the atmosphere became even more awkward. After a long while, Yi Qinghan couldn't take it anymore. He gritted his teeth and said, "You speak first, Queen." Woo! The Queen's gaze collided with Yi Qinghan's, and she immediately dodged it. She hesitated for a moment before saying, Actually, just now, I was cultivating my race's special technique. It can be considered cultivation, so Emperor doesn't need to mind. Don't think too much." Cultivation? Yi Qinghan was a little confused. Who would take off their clothes when cultivating? He looked at Ice Queen suspiciously and replied casually, Oh, cultivation. Cultivation is good. Yi Qinghan's casual words caused Ice Queen to misunderstand. She thought that Yi Qinghan thought that she was cultivating some evil technique. In a panic, she stomped her feet and explained shyly, I really am cultivating. Ice Snow Race's body is special. Every 10 years, I have to have sex with a guy. If not, I will turn into an ice sculpture. I am alone. I don't want to find a guy. So I can only rely on this formation to let myself. Let's not talk about it. It is so embarrassing. Chapter 1370. I have to have sex with a guy for 100 years? If not, I will turn into an ice sculpture? Rely on formations? Hearing this, Yi Qinghan was even more confused. He had heard of the island of ice and snow in the past. It was said that only women lived on the island. Occasionally, the women would come out of the immortal world to abduct talented and handsome men to breed with. These guys were like livestock, being escorted by the ice and snow race, and taking turns to breed with them. He thought back to Ice Queen just now. Her body was as red as a flower. Her beautiful eyes were half closed. Yi Qinghan had slept with many women, and of course, he immediately understood that this was what a girl looked like when she was satisfied. Was she using the restriction to satisfy him just now? Thinking about that, Yi Qinghan felt his mouth go dry, and the flames of lust in him started to tremble. That's not right. She didn't follow me to the planar battlefield. How did she spend those 100 years without restrictions? Did she go into her own space artifact and dig it out herself? Damn, I am too evil. Amitabha, I have sinned. The more Yi Qinghan thought about it, the more he felt that it wasn't right. He snuck a peek and noticed that Ice Queen was so embarrassed that her head was nearly buried in her thighs. Thinking back to how Ice Queen hurriedly put on her clothes and how her chest was jumping up and down, his body couldn't help but become more restless. He forced himself to calm down. Yi Qinghan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said with much effort, I can understand that. Cough. Let's not talk about this, then what? Right? I came to find you to ask how to raise one's laws above grade 9. What I mean is, under normal circumstances, how can a lower grade 9 cultivator cultivate to grade 9 supreme? Laws above grade 9? Seeing that Yi Qinghan started to talk about proper matters, Ice Queen wasn't so embarrassed anymore. However, the red on her face was still really obvious. She took in a deep breath and said, Emperor, actually, if you continue to comprehend laws, your strength won't increase much. Let me ask, your attacks are so strong, but it doesn't have much to do with laws, right? It doesn't. My strength is a little special. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose and said with an embarrassed smile, Don't worry about that. Although the cultivation of the laws can improve my strength by a lot, it's always good to improve a little. Oh, Ice Queen was even more shocked. She stared at Yi Qinghan for a moment and couldn't help but ask, Emperor, I am really curious. With your strength and Xiaohe Emperor's strength, apart from the God Emperor and Supreme Beings, no one in Pan World can threaten you, right? You're still working so hard to cultivate. You don't have to worry about that. A hint of bitterness flashed across Yi Qinghan's eyes, but he immediately hid it. He pretended to be relaxed and said, Tell me, how do I improve my nomological laws above the 9th grade? All right. A complicated expression flashed in Ice Queen's eyes, and she guessed something. She sighed. Martial cultivators cultivate to go against the heavens and change their fate. To reach the peak, one has to comprehend the ultimate mystery and gain the recognition of the laws of heaven and earth to give one the power of heaven and earth. Actually, only when one reaches the 9th grade can one be considered to have stepped onto the path of an expert. Or rather, the path of cultivation has truly begun. To become stronger, then you have to comprehend the laws. Comprehend one ultimate mystery, and you will be below the 9th grade. Comprehend 3 ultimate mysteries, and you will become above the 9th grade. To become a 9th grade supreme, you have to comprehend 6 ultimate mysteries. Above the 9th grade, you can continue to comprehend them, and your strength will continue to grow stronger. Legend has it that, if one can comprehend 9 ultimate mysteries, The laws of heaven and earth will recognize you, and you will become a godlike existence, which is the God Emperor. What? Yi Qinghan was shocked and cried out involuntarily. If Ice Queen, who didn't like to joke, said these words, he wouldn't dare to believe it even if he was beaten to death. Let's not talk about the fact that a martial artist could cultivate to the God Emperor realm. After all, that was just a legend. Let's talk about the ultimate mystery. What was the ultimate mystery? It wasn't cabbage or carrots. There were billions of martial artists in the God world. It was easy for venerables to break through, but there were so few grade 9 experts they could be counted on one hand. In a million years, who managed to break through to grade 9? Only one, Lei Zhen. Why? That was because the ultimate mystery was the hardest to comprehend. It wasn't that his luck was heaven-defying, but because of the evolution of the cold world, he wouldn't be able to comprehend the ultimate mystery in his life. Now that Ice Queen told him that to raise his realm above grade 9, he had to comprehend the ultimate mystery. One must know that to comprehend the ultimate mystery, one had to comprehend the 5 basic mysteries and then slowly merge them into beginner mysteries, intermediate mysteries, and high mysteries. Only by merging 6 high mysteries and comprehending the Tao could one comprehend the ultimate mystery. Above grade 9, one had to comprehend 3 ultimate mysteries, 6 grade 9 supreme martial artists. Yi Qinghan was terrified just thinking about it. Was that something that could be done by humans? Even if all his brain cells died, he might not be able to comprehend it, right? Don't rush, Emperor. Ice Queen saw Yi Qinghan frown, and his expression changed. It was really ugly. She covered her mouth and laughed. Actually, after a martial artist reaches grade 9, the comprehension of laws isn't as difficult as you think. Moreover, you don't need to comprehend the Tao. With your innate talent, it'll be even easier for you to comprehend them. Perhaps you'll be able to comprehend all 9 ultimate mysteries and become a divine emperor. Eh? What do you mean? When Yi Qinghan heard that there was a secret behind it, he was pumped up and asked. Ice Queen smiled and said, when a martial artist comprehends the ultimate mystery and breaks through grade 9, they will be recognized by the laws. Therefore, a level 9 expert's body will be incomparably compatible with the Dharma of heaven and earth. In other words, it will be easier for a level 9 martial artist to comprehend the mysteries of the Dharma because the Dharma of heaven and earth has already recognized you. If you explore its mysteries, it will not resist you so much. That makes sense. Yi Qinghan thought about it and felt that it made sense. He asked curiously, so what you mean is that the more I comprehend, the more compatible I will be with the laws? The more I comprehend, the easier it will be? Kiki, that's not the case. Ice Queen smiled. She enjoyed Yi Qinghan's serious expression. She explained, it is indeed easier for a martial artist to comprehend at the later stages. However, the last step is extremely difficult. For example, lower grade 9, upper grade 9. Look at me. I have been stuck at this upper grade 9 for hundreds of thousands of years. I know that if I take a step forward, I will become a supreme God Emperor, but I still can't take that step. Maybe this is a test from the laws of heaven and earth. So that's the case. Yi Qinghan sighed. Beast God and Zhu, you were both upper grade 9 and have been stuck for who knows how many years. However, they still couldn't take that step. Maybe they would never be able to in this lifetime. After a moment of silence, Yi Qinghan asked, if I comprehend the laws, how will my strength increase? Will heaven and earth give me more willpower? Ice Queen smiled. There is no need. The moment you comprehend, you will notice that you will be more compatible with heaven and earth. You will understand more about heaven and earth, and you will be able to control more willpower. Oh, I understand now. Yi Qinghan nodded his head in deep thought, thinking that he was smart. The laws of heaven and earth are like a girl. The laws of heaven and earth are like a woman. If you can pry into more secrets in her heart, she will be more affectionate towards you and give you more power. If you can see through everything and make her agree with you, she will let you do whatever you want. Yi Qinghan was used to using a hooligan tone. The moment he said that, he realized that it was wrong. His analogy was accurate, but it was okay to say it to Beast God Jita and the others. To say it to an Ice Queen who had just been seen naked. Wasn't that like teasing her? Hinting at her? As expected, Ice Queen's beautiful face was as red as fire. Her eyes were filled with shyness and charm. She bit her lips, revealing half of her snow-white teeth. She looked as flirtatious as one could imagine. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.